Good afternoon and welcome to the May 21st meeting of Committee of the Whole, which now I will call to order. We have a very full agenda today to get through, and I ask that we stay on topic and on time with deputations and presentations as well. Are there any declarations of interest from members of council? And I know we have Councillor Roy DeClemente and Councillor Terry Foster, who are both looking at us today on the camera, and we're glad that they're here with us. Thank you very much for being here as well. I'll now share our land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaty First Nation and other Indigenous peoples. And on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. Item D, we are at item D, community announcements. Are there any updates from members of council? Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that due to the inclement weather forecast for tomorrow, that the opening of the farmers market has now been moved to the sports complex as well as the town's open house. So both of those will be taking place indoors at the sports complex in Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hay, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. And I wanted to remind everyone that it's the Public Works Week, and as part of the community open house being put on by the town, there is the opportunity to touch the trucks and touch the other mighty machines that are used by our wonderful Department of Engineering and Public Works. So we invite everybody, children and adults alike, to come out for the Touch the Truck event. And I wanted to just compliment the Department of Engineering and Public Works, because I saw those trucks in action last Monday when there was a broken water main on Center Street in Mount Albert, and they took care of that in a very efficient and timely manner. And so on behalf of the residents of Mount Albert, we want to thank you for that from the staff of that department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members have information? Don't hesitate as we move along. I know that sometimes things crop up along the way. Before we begin, I will quickly go over a few reminders of today's deputations. Deputants are asked to come to the lectern, speak clearly into the microphone. Please introduce yourself and advise if you are here on your own or representing someone else. You will have 5 minutes to speak, not including any questions from council. I will provide a quick timing reminder as you approach the 5-minute mark. Please ensure your comments stay focused on the topic you outlined in your deputation request form. We ask everyone to maintain respect and decorum. Disruptive or inappropriate behavior will be addressed, and if needed, I may issue a warning or ask someone to leave. These guidelines are in place to help keep our meeting respectful and productive. Thank you for your cooperation. Number 1, I now invite C. Zierler on behalf of Shared Tower making a deputation to committee regarding Item 1.1 Development Services Planning Branch Report DS2025-09 Application for Telecommunication Tower 19442 Second Concession Road. Welcome. Good to have you with us this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of council. Thank you again for having me here today to speak on this matter. My name is Cheyenne Zierler, and I'm the Senior Planning Manager here on behalf of Shared Tower, Inc. I'm here to respectfully request a letter of concurrence for the tower proposal, and if there are any outstanding items or reports that are requested, that the matter may be deferred back to staff so that we may be able to provide that. I do want to stress that this tower application is not only about faster downloads or convenience, but it is a matter of public safety, accessibility, and equity for the communities. Reliable wireless services are essential infrastructure, just like water, hydro, and roadways, especially in new communities. It powers 911 access, emergency alerts, remote work, access to education, and virtual care. We are excited to note that East Gwillimbury, there's a lot of growth, 4,300 new homes happening or slated by 2031. Around 1,300 homes are being developed just to the west of this site, with another 1,500 more to the north and southeast, sorry. That's approximately 2,800 homes in the area, in addition to the existing communities. Yet the closest existing wireless infrastructure is approximately 2 to 3 kilometers away, which is too far to reliably service these new communities. This tower will help fill that gap, and it's designed to serve thousands of new devices and communities, both future and current residents in the area. In these fast-growing neighborhoods, it's important that we ensure they have coverage from day one. We understand the visual components when it comes to this application, which is why we've carefully selected this site and tower design to strike a balance between the coverage needs as well as community impacts. Today, the wireless network, devices, and the technology all requires this infrastructure to be placed closer to the user. We're not in a day and age anymore where we can have a few towers located outside of communities or towns and expect the same coverage like we have in the past. We have reviewed alternative sites in the search ring area, including the drive-in theater and the tire repair shop on Mount Albert Road, which were not available due to the future development plans. All of the other properties in the search ring are slated for future development or currently residential. This is the most effective site location when it comes to our investigation over the past year and a half to meet those wireless requirements while still being near the users. The slide deck that I've provided in my materials does showcase examples across York Region where towers have been integrated much closer to residential businesses and schools. And in this case, our tower is situated further than those examples, approximately 150 feet away from the property line to the south. Now, this is a typical 20-year lease. It is a long-term commitment to provide infrastructure that matches the ambitious growth path of the community. But this is more than just planning. This is about preventing the unthinkable. I do want to share a true story from 2023 for another site we've worked on. In Hammond Bay, British Columbia, a similar compliant tower application was provided with non-concurrence due to possible visual impacts. A few months later, a resident in the area suffered a heart attack. Neither his wife, neighbors, nor passing drivers could get a signal to call 911, and unfortunately, he passed away. Every second matters in these applications for telecommunication towers. Soon after, Council did reverse their direction and in regards to providing service in the area with a tower, but it was too late for that resident. This story isn't rare. We do see it across Canada, and we're involved with many different projects trying to provide that coverage for safety to communities, and it is our responsibility to act and prevent these situations. Prudent avoidance in this case is not a valid approach. We'd like you to please consider the importance of this infrastructure for the area, and we urgently request concurrence or some kind of deferral when it comes to this application, as a national service provider has requested to co-locate on this tower within the coming month to bolster their existing network and also prepare for future developments. Delays will impact the service that's provided to the community. So we'd like to make sure that East Gwillimbury's infrastructure keeps pace with its exciting growth that it's experiencing in the area, so that every resident is allowed the ability to call for help, work remotely, start a business, have access to education, or connect with loved ones. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you for this. As councillor for the ward that this would be in, one of the two councillors for that ward, I can tell you that I've had many calls from residents when they can get a signal. Many conversations with residents about how it's underserved. So others on council may not know that there was a tower across the street and up a little bit, and when they put them into a subdivision, that tower came down, and everyone in the area had far worse service. And you know, it's interesting, your comment about calling 911, because that is what residents are afraid of. They can only get a signal from one corner of their house, and they're worried that their partner had a heart attack and they were doing CPR. They'd have to choose between leaving them and going to the corner of the house to make the call. Everyone got rid of their landlines because there was great service, and when that tower came down, there wasn't, I don't think there was adequate research done about how to replace and how to restore that service. They complained for many years, nothing happened. They saw this and were happy. So the fact that no one came out to the open house, I think, was because everyone was like, okay, good. So, I mean, it's only anecdotally that I know a lot of people have concerns about this. Do you have any data? Is it possible, like, are you able to do any mapping to look at what the service levels are in this area?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, of course. Thank you, Councillor. Great question. We do often provide coverage maps. That's something that we can provide to staff as part of the application, just showcasing the current coverage as well as what the propagation would be if the tower was installed. And then on that matter, we're also working with multiple service providers, it being shared infrastructure, for them all to co-locate. So that opportunity would be available to multiple service providers, municipal equipment, even smaller internet providers as well.
Okay. If I may, Madam Mayor, I think it's much needed. I think the argument is over the location, so I would love to see what other locations you looked at, give staff some time to look at other possible locations. I know we've said on council many times that we have to provide the infrastructure along with the houses, and this is key infrastructure. Do you have, my last question is, can you tell us who the providers are, or is that TBD?
I can't release who it will be,
Okay.
but we do have a signed lease agreement with one of the national service providers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to our presenter, thank you very much for coming out today. You have me 100% sold on the need for this tower. I think my colleague here has mentioned quite accurately some of the challenges residents are having in that area. I know a number are resorting to cell phone boosters to try and amp up their signal the best they can. Sometimes you can go through Wi-Fi, but if you have bad Wi-Fi, well, you're still stuck. So that just further cements the need for this. I think the last statistic I looked at, about 47% of Canadians have a landline. So the last time I looked, it was 70%, so it's dropping like a rock. So people are more and more dependent on their cell phone service. And we know in times of emergency, when the cell phone towers get jammed, and the fewer towers you have, the greater the possibility of jamming. I'm not trying to make your case for you. I'm just stating that I believe in it. Where I think the challenge is, and this is where I'm not as sold, is the location. And so I would suggest, maybe to my colleagues here, maybe we kick this back to staff to see if there's something more that could be done to look at a location. We have a number of property owners in the area that I think would be willing to entertain this if we can land on a site that's agreeable to all. But I throw that out for everyone else's consideration. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I guess I'll just back up what Councillor Carruthers already mentioned. It is a very, very underserviced area. We all know that. I do have friends that live just off Silk Twist, which is probably 1.5 kilometers or so away from that tower. He has absolutely no cell phone service in his house. He has to walk outside, and in most cases, up to the end of the street to get any cell coverage there. So safety, it is a big issue. I am very, very close to being able to support the location that you're speaking about. I look at the property around it, and I don't know that it's as big of an issue as maybe we think it is, but I can certainly support that this goes back to staff and we make sure the locations that have been looked at and that you've done actually, you know, everything that you can do before we give that a go. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. I am also very supportive. I believe that the telephone services through the cell phone towers are basically an essential service in order to be able to function and be safe in our society as it is organized currently today. So I am supportive of the location. I'm supportive of the presentation. However, I'm concerned if we put it back to staff, how much time that will take in putting us behind in the process. You've mentioned you already have a national provider who's signed a lease. What can we do as a council and as staff to prevent further delays? And my first suggestion was, in terms of next steps, is that we put this on the agenda for the council meeting later today at 6 p.m., that we receive it. But I would like to work with other members of council to come up with a plan so that this can continue to move forward in a timely and efficient manner. I'm just concerned about the time delays if we put it back to staff. We're at the end of May almost, coming up to June and then summer. So what are the next steps in terms of keeping this process moving forward in a timely way? Madam Mayor, maybe, I'm not sure if our general manager of the planning department has any comments he might make on that.
We haven't heard from all of our members of
Okay,
council, so
fair
I
enough.
would wait until we have heard Councillor Roy DeClemente has her hand up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that we keep our comments to the deputant and sort of leave the matter about what next steps are for when we deal with it under the development services and we deal with Mr. Krupnick's report. My question through you, Madam Mayor, to our deputant, you mentioned tower design. Like my colleagues, I'm very much in favor of critical infrastructure. But you mentioned that it was that you had sort of thoughtfully designed it. I've seen the proposed tower appears to have, I refer to it as the Sputnik Tower, but it's, you know, sort of clustered equipment around the top of it with a lattice, rather than some of the other towers that I've seen in our community that are monopoles. And they're a little bit less obtrusive just because they are sort of that one tube. We have one that's actually a flagpole right at Green Lane in the 404. So I'm just wondering if you can comment on the design of the tower, and then when we deal with Mr. Krupnick's report, then we can talk about location. Please and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I have one more person that I have wanting to speak, so if you could hold that thought, and then we would have everyone. Councillor Johns, please.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm challenged with the location. Like I recognize looking to keep my comments to the questions to the deputant, but when it does come up, I would vote in favor of the non-concurrence because I don't think the location is appropriate. That close to residential or future residential when you look at all the opportunities that could exist. Having said that, I noticed that you do have it sitting there at York Region's ambulatory services, and you did in your deputation give a very obviously deeply moving story about the challenges with communication and emergency services. So that opening the door to recognizing the fact that you have signed a lease with a larger communications company, do you reserve space on the tower for local emergency services and their use as well as regional emergency services use?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm going to start with online councillor through you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it. Councillor online there. When it comes to the tower design, so when it comes to tower height and how much coverage it's able to provide, those monopoles that you might see in and around more urban, dense areas typically max out around 35, maybe 40 meters tall. And when you see the monopole or any kind of flush-mounted or shrouding equipment, while it might be more visually appealing in some of those more dense areas, it actually limits co-location. So less users are being able to co-locate on the tower, so then you need more towers in an area, one for each provider. So that's why in this case, I know that some examples have been brought up of a lattice design self-support tower, which it has the splayed leg where it starts out a lot larger on the base and gets thinner to the top. In this case, it is a lattice design, but it's still a tripole design, so much smaller tower than what you might typically see maybe in more agricultural areas. So that's where we've tried to balance the need of the network, being able to have co-location available while still being mindful of the height of the tower, being under 50 meters, as well as being able to support co-location. I hope that answers your question in regards to tower design, and I'm more than happy to
Very much
provide
so.
more of that to
Thank
staff
you.
as well. Thank you. And in terms of the second question, through you, Madam Mayor, thank you, Councillor. When it comes to the service providers and the emergency, sorry, I've lost the second half of your question now because I'm thinking tower design. You were asking me about specific carrier leases that are in place and how the emergency services are also, I remember now. Reserving space on the tower for emergency services. Thank you. Sometimes you just got to talk it out. Thank you for the time. So when it comes to reserving space, we absolutely have space on the tower. They don't typically require as tall of a height as the carriers do because they're using different equipment. So we always have that option available for emergency services as well as municipal equipment. Sometimes there's water meter radios that need to be put on the tower, and we have that available for the municipality as well.
Go ahead, please.
Thanks. So just in follow-up, I recognize that you again told the story of that regretful incident. So does the tower provide the space to the local and regional emergency services at no cost, or are you putting this in and then requiring that the municipalities in the region enter into a financial agreement with you?
Please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Great question. So when it comes to the municipal and emergency equipment, in recent past, or as long as we've had these towers in place, we don't charge any kind of lease fee. They're able to do it at no cost. We do have them enter into a license agreement with a zero amount cost, just so that for insurance purposes, we're able to cover that aspect.
Were there other questions? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Leahy, go. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We've learned a lot from you in a very short period of time. Appreciate it very much. We're at item 2, D. Stone on behalf of 6 Development, Inc., making a deputation to committee regarding 1.2 Development Services Planning Branch Report DS2025-09 Official Plan Amendment, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, and Allocation Request 19820 Holland Landing Road. 6 Development, Inc. files OPA 2501 and ZBA 2401. Welcome. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, and thank you for the opportunity to address council on this matter. First off, on behalf of myself and my client, I'd like to thank and express my thanks and appreciation to the thorough work done by the town staff and the planning department in particular in terms of bringing this matter forward today. We do have a presentation, and I will have a few remarks before I ask my client, Frank Tahari, who is the architect on the project as well, to speak to the specific matters of urban design and our request specifically. We'll do our best to stay within the 5 minutes for the deputation. So in summary, we are in full support of the staff recommendation in terms of the planning applications and the assignment of the servicing allocation to enable this project to proceed. We have been working with this challenging site for over 6 years. I understand from speaking to my client just now, he says it's 9. I guess I've been working on the project with Frank and the group for about 6 years. We've had 2 public meetings, and we've done extensive work with the region and the Conservation Authority together with town staff. My client has acquired the municipal road allowance and portions of the region's surplus lands in order to improve traffic and access to the site. We now have the opportunity to deliver the project and will be submitting the required site plan application in the next few weeks. We have one request as it relates to the recommended zoning bylaw attached to the staff report and the minimum setbacks in particular. We are requesting that the minimum setbacks be revised slightly to accommodate the project in terms of its awkward configuration and the geometrics of the property. We note from the staff report that a minimum 1 meter setback is supported and has been recommended by staff. We have responded and made adjustments to the site plan, and we're now providing 1.2 meters along both Bathurst and the Holland Landing Road. We do require a reduction in the recommended 1 meter setback for the Shoppers store, which is abutting the Yonge Street frontage, and this reduction is only required at one corner of the building where we're meeting the 1 meter on the other side. We're proposing 0.47 at this pinch point on the site. For the most part, and as noted earlier, we exceed the staff recommended 1 meter setback and the average building setback across the site exceeds the minimum recommended 1 meter. So we've prepared and submitted to the clerk the requested minor revisions to the zoning bylaw, which is coming up under the Development Services Committee agenda, Appendix 10, I think it is, to the staff report. And we look for council's support for these minor changes to the zoning bylaw and moving forward with the exciting project. So with that, I'm going to ask Frank to come up and he can walk you through the site plan and some of the urban design principles and objectives for the project at this gateway location for Holland Landing. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. So as Dan mentioned, we've been on this file for a good 9 years now, and we are at the final stages, hopefully, and we are trying to move this forward into construction as soon as possible. Before I start, I would like to mention that timing is key for this development. We have some national tenants coming to the site, and they have scheduled occupying the site in 2027. So timing is a key matter for our team. Having said that, we've been also working with the staff in the past 3 weeks very closely. I would like to thank Matthew. He's been very helpful, and also Jack, in trying to get this in front of the council now. And we've made a few modifications from the original staff report. We tried to work with the national kind of shoppers to improve the numbers from the original request. Originally, we had the building at 0.1 meters, going up to 0.9 meters. We've improved that to about 0.47 and 1.42, which on average is very close to the 1 meter that the staff is willing to support. However, we are working with a national store which has their own specific requirements, and we are also working with a site that's not a straightforward site. So if we can go to the next slide. Essentially, as part of this development, as we've mentioned multiple times, we are urbanizing Highway 11 and Bathurst Street. We are basically, I think this is a heavy file, so maybe you go to the next slide so that it loads, yeah. So we are following all the design guidelines from the region in terms of urbanizing, in terms of providing the multipurpose path that's going to be built on Highway 11. There's a bike lane, there is landscaping corridor, there is a sidewalk corridor, and there's also extra landscaping between that multi-use purpose path and the future Shoppers building. Originally, we were asking for other specific locations for zero setback. We kind of dig deeper into the zoning bylaw, into the definitions, and we realized those are not needed. We also adjusted the location of the Shoppers, kind of fine-tuning what we could reduce the sidewalk width within the plaza, We still comply with AODA, we still comply with accessibility requirement, and we were able to kind of confirm the new location. If we move to the next slide, these are the design principles behind the region, the recommended sizes, which we are complying with all of those all around the site wherever we are urbanizing. If we go to the next slide, this is generally the site plan. I would like to say that on Holland Landing, we are meeting staff recommendations. On Bathurst Street, we are meeting staff recommendations. On the site triangles, we're again meeting that based on the definitions of the bylaw. And the whole conversation that we have now is kind of summed up around the Shoppers building specifically, and specifically on the south corner. If we go to the next slide, I think next two slides, I don't think we need to see this anymore because this is relevant. Same thing, not needed. Yeah, over here. So on the very south side of the building, we are at about 0.5 meter, a little bit short, 0.47 centimeters. And on the north, it's about 1.42. Adding those up, dividing it, we are about 92, 93 centimeters, which is on average, which is very close to the 1 meter that the staff is recommending. But still, on the minimum location, we are a little bit lower than that number. And it's basically mostly caused by the odd shape of this property, the fact that none of the lot boundaries are linear. We have curvatures in the lot boundaries, and the whole fact that the intersection is not an urbanized intersection as it stands today. So basically, that's what's causing this kind of delineation from the recommendations. We've tried our very best to work with the national brand to reduce their store size. They already reduced the width of their store by about 6 feet. We did further work with them in the past 2 weeks specifically to kind of reduce their sidewalk sizes to fit it in here and get it as close as possible to staff recommendation. Having said that, you saw the renders, the feel of the space, the feel of the urbanized intersection, and I feel it's a very minor request from the council and kind of the little support that we need to kind of get this project off of the ground. We've almost finished all of our site plan work. We should be coming in with a full application within the next 3 to 4 weeks. We want to move forward with the construction of this as soon as possible, hopefully within this end of the summer, beginning of the fall.
Thank you very much. It's always important to get the details as well, and you've provided that to us, so thank you very
No
much.
problem.
Questions from members of council? Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much for presenting and also for all the work you've done on this. These are much needed shops and services for this area, very underserved area of Holland Landing as far as any sort of retail or commercial space. I know you're working with an awkward site, and I thank you for sitting down with us and going through everything that you've done to try and move the building. I asked about reducing the parking, and we don't want to put shoppers at risk of finding a different site. We would like to see that shoppers here. And I always look at, when we're looking at zoning bylaw amendments, what would our residents think? And I think that for half a meter on one corner of a building to not have a shoppers, I think they would think we were crazy to do that. So I think for the extra half meter, usually I'm very vocal about sticking to what the official plan says, what our zoning bylaws say. But in this case, I would think having a shoppers in that area would be a huge win for the town. So thank you for everything that you've done to bring this to us.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at, we have two members of council who are remote, and I'm just looking at them to make sure that I don't miss their hand going up.
sure.
I'm not seeing it at this time. Councillor LaHaye, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I agree with my fellow councillors. It's important to always be open-minded, although it's a technicality, and you have exceeded, and you've clearly explained that you've exceeded the staff recommendation in terms of the distance, and you've exceeded across the site the distance, that in my conversations with you over time, that you have stated, which helped put me in perspective about weighing the pros and cons, that of the entire site, that the minor accommodation that you are asking for represents only 2%.
Even less than that.
Even less
Yeah.
than 2% of the entire
Yeah.
site in terms of that distance. So I think it's important to put that in perspective, and I'm supportive of this. I just want to confirm that you have agreed to also put shovels in the ground immediately and within a designated time, that there will be no delays in beginning the construction of this. Is that
Yes.
correct?
So as long as the approvals are in place, as long as there's no kind of legal preventions in terms of starting the work, we are ready to move forward. Specifically, our goal is to start with the servicing clearing of the site as soon as possible. We do need clearance from the region to start the tree cutting. We've not done that in the past 9 years. We were respectful of the natural heritage features on the site. We wanted to make sure we're not causing any damage to the environment, to put it. And basically, as long as approvals are in place, we will be moving forward.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I have one follow-up question with regard to this project moving forward. In terms of the revenue that the town will gain and collect from this, in terms of the property taxes, do we have a figure of what the estimate is in terms of the revenue for the town? In terms
We
of the
did have a
taxes?
presentation last time. If I remember correctly, we are generating about $400,000 a year in terms of taxes, and out of that, about $120,000 comes to the town.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
problem.
It's much needed commercial space, and we look forward to that in the
No
future.
problem.
Thank you.
Councillor Roy DeClemente, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will, when we get to the staff report, I will ask staff to outline what allowances we are making. I don't think that we're we're exceeding things. In fact, I think we're permitting setbacks that wouldn't normally be in our zoning bylaw. So there's already requests for mitigation. I guess my question through you, Madam Mayor, to our deputant, there's two issues I'd like to see just confirmed. The signage for the anchor tenant, is it going to be overhanging and sitting out above the multi-use pathway?
No.
Okay, so it will be flush with the building?
It would be flush with the building. Actually, the Shoppers building is now sitting about half a meter at its closest location and about 1.5 meter at its furthest point. So there's
Okay.
a good gap between the building and the multipurpose path. In case it has to protrude out of the building, it cannot pass the lot boundary. If that would be the case, then we need an encroachment agreement, which we're not anticipating to do at this point.
Okay, so I guess my biggest concern here is that it's not just a sidewalk that we're putting this building up against, but it's in fact a multi-use pathway, which is an important piece of active transportation infrastructure. I know that having the shorter setback will create some maintenance concerns, and that obviously it's a regional multi-use pathway. I couldn't really tell from the design, are there going to be doors opening onto this right-of-way?
On
Like
this
from the
side
back
of the building?
Onto Highway 11, that would be sort of,
Not
there
as-
would be doors coming into the right-of-way?
No.
No, okay.
That's not the plan, at least as far as I know, for Shoppers. Their designs are not finalized, but they're anticipating the main entrance at the front. And judging from their typical layouts, they typically have their warehousing on this side of the building. Now, we want to make sure from urban design aspect, it has a good-looking kind of elevation on that side of the building. We recognize that's Young Street, and there's a lot of traffic flowing there, so we want to make sure we keep the kind of good feel of the plaza on that side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Through you, through you to the deputant. Thanks for your preparatory meetings with us for us to get better clarity. Like as Councillor Carruthers stated, I feel that the community is wildly in need of the amenities and services that you are that you're providing, and I don't have issue with setback. One of the items that I did speak to in our meetings was the pedestrian connectivity into the residential area on the other side. Currently, from a sidewalk perspective, that's challenged. Conversations regarding crosswalks, like there is going to be a large excitement when you're coming to town, and especially with the high use area, high use tenants in McDonald's and in Shoppers Drug Mart. And so if this does progress to a positive outcome as we get through to the agenda, can I just get clarity from yourself on kind of next steps that you see that you would like to take to ensure that pedestrian safety and connectivity through the residential neighborhood is going to be addressed?
Yep. So we've actually, since our first public meeting, we retained our transportation consultants. We kind of went over and beyond a typical transportation study for this site. And we basically did some of the region's work for them. And we came up with a proposal for the region to what to do, how to improve the traffic flow, the pedestrian access around this site. And it was reviewed with their team multiple times. We actually had a meeting with them yesterday to follow up on that. As it stands, it came out to a final resolution which was kind of proposing to signalize Bathurst and Holland Landing and provide a kind of pass-through through regional lands south coming on Bathurst. We've created that beyond the scope of our project for the region. We had a meeting with them. This does need their own internal approval, so it's with the region's internal team to see if they're willing to approve it. We discussed that we are willing to take on the construction of this as long as there's some kind of a compensation from the region on the cost of these, because we are already urbanizing all around the site on our own kind of budget. And it's putting us in a very hard position in terms of budgeting the project. However, if there's support from the region and if they're willing to kind of hop onto this, we are more than happy to kind of help them execute that work. That would improve the accessibility to the site, specifically for pedestrians, significantly. It does need a special approval from the region because the distance between the signalized intersections does not meet their typical standard. They're a little bit closer, and they're working on it. So yesterday we met with them, with the transportation planning and another department, and they asked us to give them some time to get back to us on it. But that's what we've done, that's what we could do, because there's costs associated with everything. But definitely we've looked into it, and as long as we get that support, we're more than happy to build that into the project.
Thank you very much. I have one more member of council. Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to our presenter. Thank you very much for this. And I too want to echo what Councillor John said. I really appreciated the level of communication that we've had on this. It certainly made me feel a little more comfortable with it. I think Councillor Carruthers mentioned earlier that, we have these rules, we like to stick to the rules, but that's what we're here for. That's our job, is to make exceptions to those guidelines, because if we were just to follow them 100% of the time, then our requirement here becomes less and less. So I think adding Shoppers Drug Mart to the community, what I should say, back up, I'll say, making the changes and allowing the setbacks that you propose would be a net benefit to the community because it's bringing some much needed commercial tenants to the area. Certainly, and you know, Shoppers it's not just a drugstore anymore. It's a mini grocery store, and I think that's needed out at that part of town. Save people driving out of town. So that's good, and I like the idea of McDonald's being there, because you know I can go and get my Big Mac and then go to Shoppers and get my Lipitor afterwards to counteract. So it's perfect. It's perfect layering of your tenants. So I will be supportive of this. Thank you.
In order to add to that, we might have pickleball courts on the side, so in case you want to burn some calories, you have that option too. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other members wanting to speak. Councillor Crone, would you move the recommendation? All those in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Very much appreciated. We are at item F under presentations, and we do not have any at this time. Item G is Council Committee, Board and Groups Environmental Advisory Committee Report, Litter Prevention Sign Stickers. And Councillor Crone, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to speak to this. This came out of a conversation I had going back a few weeks ago, where we've been doing these community cleanup days, and members of the community are coming out. Some streets are doing their own, and there's a real, almost a pride of ownership here in taking care of your street, your road, wherever you live. And it's much like the signs we've seen in the past, you know, drive slowly in this neighborhood. Well, this, you know, where you want people to slow down. Well, this was another idea where we could put out these signs against littering, because we've just cleaned up this area. We want to let people know that it's clean, and you know, please don't litter. It's unfortunately we have to remind people to do that, but so the idea was to have these signs. I think I think we've got the budget within our department to do so, and the recommendation was also to have stickers that could go over older signs that we have, like many of us still have, as the No May signs, that you could repurpose that, and I think that's just speaks to, you know, one of the R's of reusing and recycling. So I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said. If Ms. Ross, if you had anything to add, or if you feel that I've covered it off. Okay, all right. So there you go, Madam Mayor. That's my update.
Councillor Leahy, do you have a question? Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. I do have a concern. I have a concern that while this has good intentions and it's a nice idea, it actually runs counter to the goals of some of the goals of the Environmental Committee, because litter prevention signs could ultimately end up as litter themselves, and I'm concerned about the cost of putting in these signs. I will speak from my own experience in walking through the park, and specifically even Vivian Creek Park, where signs might potentially go. And last summer there were posts put in, wood posts, and on each side of those wood posts were directional identifications and location identifications, so that in case of an emergency while someone is on the trail, and to meet the compliance with other trail systems, that people could be found, because they could go to one of those posts and say what the location is. Now, when I felt it very much visually cluttered the natural environment, having all these signs, but when I understood that the reasoning for them was to provide safety and location information, I thought, well, that's very good. Our priority must always be safety. I think that there are other methods to educate the public with litter prevention signs, as well as the litter cleanups, which I participated in. We can use Curbex signs, we can use digital signs, we can use other communication routes throughout the town. I do not believe that it is necessary to add additional no littering signs to our natural environment, which will potentially become litter themselves. Thank you.
Councillor Carruthers?
Thank you. I understand the concerns that Councillor Leahy's bringing up. I think that this is advice coming from our environmental committee, so I'm going to hope that they've weighed the pros and cons of this. When we establish committees to provide us with advice, it's important to recognize that when they're giving us advice that they've probably thought this through. It was my understanding that the signs would go up shortly after a cleanup and then not stay up forever, but to be picked up again in a month or so. And I think that having done a lot of these cleanups, I think it would be a very good visual reminder to people who are doing the littering that this area has been cleaned up by your neighbors, so please don't litter. And, you know, it was something that I heard from the people I was cleaning up with. They were getting kind of frustrated because we clean it up every year and the garbage comes back. And they were asking, what can we do? What can we do? And when I saw this recommendation, I thought that this is good advice from our environment committee, and I think it would be very impactful, and I think it's certainly worth a try. I don't think we need, 300 of them all across town, but I think in key locations where residents have spent their whole Saturday cleaning up, for them to be able to stick a sign in it is a way of us also thanking them for what they've done, and that when they drive by, they'll see the sign with a town logo on it and feel proud of their work. So I'm happy to move this recommendation.
Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. So I participated in cleaning up the Vivian Creek Park in Mount Albert, and I believe we already put up signs. I saw a sign the very next day with the piles of garbage there, with a lawn sign on a wire frame stating that this was part of our community cleanup, and that's why the garbage bags were there. They were waiting to be picked up by our services, our garbage collection services, and so it's already being done. The lawn signs go out. It says this is an area that's been cleaned up by residents, and this is the pile of garbage that was collected, and then the sign disappeared because it was picked up. So, but just a point on that specific location, ironically, I passed the next day and there was litter in the parking lot, and I looked around. I picked up the litter. I looked around, and there was no garbage bin, no garbage collection at that parking lot in Vivian Creek Park specifically. So I think this is something that if we're going to ask people not to litter, we need to ensure first that there is a disposal unit, there's a garbage bin there so that they can have a place to put their litter. And I would rather see the town invest in adding additional garbage cans, which I've also been requested by residents before, on that trail and behind the fire station, etc. So we already are putting out signs that say we are proud of the community cleanup, which I saw myself at that location. And respectfully, I would like to say that while we take advice sometimes from our advisory committees, we don't always take their advice. They are volunteers. We are elected members on council, and that we should be listening to our staff members rather than necessarily taking all of the advice 100% from advisory committees, which are made up of volunteers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor, you are moving this?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Will I read it out we do have some people who are not with us, so I'm thinking for most of our afternoon we would be reading out, so I would read this one out as well. Be it resolved that the Environmental Advisory Committee Report EAC 2025-01 dated May 21st, 2020 5 entitled Litter Prevention Signs, Stickers be received. Advisory Committee recommendation as follows. Be it resolved that the Environmental Advisory Committee requests that Council direct staff to develop anti-littering signs, stickers for residential cleanups to help prevent the reoccurrence of litter. And that would be moved by Councillor Carruthers.
I just want to check with the clerk because we have before us the recommendation from the advisory committee, but we need to reword it to be from council. So the first part to receive and the second part, I guess we want it from that council. So skip over the first bit that the advisory committee recommends and go right to that council direct staff to develop anti-littering stickers, signs/stickers for resident cleanups to help prevent the recurrence of litter. Correct?
And
Through
that's
Madam
your,
Mayor, and the recommendation is on the screen before you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
and that's your motion? Thank you. Not seeing any questions. All those in favor? And that's opposed, and that's carried. We're down to corporate services with Councillor Carruthers in the chair.
Thank you very much. We have a few items for us today. The first one was deferred from our May 6th Committee of the Whole meeting. We ran out of time on that one, so hopefully we can give this the time it deserves today. It's our presentation on the strategic workforce planning. I turn it over to General Manager Gandhi to take us through it. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to do a brief introduction on this, Mayor and members of Council. In 2023, Council approved a 2024 capital budget requested for the development of a strategic workforce plan, and we embarked on that over the course of 2024 and into 2025. To undertake this initiative, we engaged Jeff McPherson and Sumita Mata, who collectively have all kinds of experience. It's outlined in the staff report. I also want to acknowledge the working group, and that's comprised of Dahlia Dumrath, Director of People and Belonging, Bethany Lee, Director of Communications and Customer Service, and Warren Marshall, General Manager of Finance and Treasurer. And in addition, this is truly a collective effort involving all departments and staff within those departments. In a few minutes, Jeff is going to present the report, but first I'd like to touch on a couple of points as to why this is important. Developing a strategic workforce plan sets the stage for understanding the future workforce needs that we have. It helps us to plan for having the right people with the right skills at the right time. And with a longer term plan in place, we can also better work towards better allocating resources efficiently. I also want to point out that just this past December, we announced that EG was selected as one of Greater Toronto's top 2025 employers, and that's a significant accomplishment. The Strategic Workforce Plan is another example of how we are fostering a positive work environment and promoting employee well-being. And it's also important to recognize that people point this out when they're coming and they're interviewing for positions, and they're noticing that we are one of the top employers. And in that competitive labor market, it's important to know, for staff to know what positions they can grow into, and for the organization to have a sense of how it is going to evolve. And so for those reasons, this work is, in my view, critical for the organization's betterment. So with that, I would invite Jeff McPherson to take us through the presentation. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Mita, and good afternoon, everybody. Next slide, please. Today, I will share our findings as well as an approach for strategic workforce planning. We will cover a review of the town's population staffing growth, a comparison of town staffing to municipal comparators, 2 population growth scenarios and potential staffing implications, a strategic workforce planning framework, and a summary of findings and next steps. Next slide, please. To establish a context for workforce planning, we reviewed the town's population and staffing growth from 2016 to 2025. This includes a period of rapid population growth, as well as 24 and 25 when significant investments in staff resources occurred. We found that from 2016 to 25, staffing levels grew at a rate lower than the rate of population growth. Population grew at 65.3%, full-time staffing at 51.5%. Next slide, please. To gain an organizational staffing perspective, we conducted a review of the same comparator municipalities as outlined in the town's compensation policy. We used information contained in the financial information returns, review of budget documents, as well as interview with municipal representatives. We compared organizational staffing levels based on staff per 1,000 population, which is a common staffing measure used for comparison purposes at an organizational level. Fire and emergency service staffing numbers were excluded from the municipal benchmarking review. The primary reason for excluding fire and emergency services was that the comparator municipalities use very different staffing models. For example, Markham and Newmarket utilize a combined full-time staffing model through Central York Fire Services. King Township utilizes a volunteer-focused fire service. The decision to exclude fire and emergency services was made to improve the overall reliability of data used for the comparisons. Fire and emergency staffing needs are better examined and addressed through an updated fire master plan exercise. Next, please. Our review found that comparator municipalities on average had 4.37 full-time staff per 1,000 population. When we reviewed the EG data in 2016, prior to the period of rapid growth, EG had a similar staffing ratio at 4.4 staff per 1,000. As the population grew rapidly, the staffing ratio for EG dropped in 2023 to 3.56 staff per 1,000. The 2024 and 2025 budget included a significant investment in staff in new positions, and the EG staffing ratio increased to 4.01 staff per 1,000. Notwithstanding this investment, investment in 24 and 25, the EG staff per 1,000 is still below the benchmark municipal average. Next slide. To understand what this means, we applied the benchmark staffing ratio average of 4.37 per 1,000 population to the EG population. To match the municipal benchmark average, EG would require 182 full-time staff excluding fire and emergency services. Currently, EG has 167 full-time non-fire and emergency services staff. This means that in 2025, EG staffing levels were 15 positions fewer or 9% lower than the municipal benchmark staffing average. Benchmark staffing ratios are a guide and an indicator of an organizational staffing level. The fact that EG staffing is 9% lower than the municipal benchmark average is evidence that EG is a lean organization when compared to the comparative municipal grouping. Next slide. Next, we want to understand the potential impact of future population growth on staffing needs. Our approach was to create two population growth scenarios and to apply the municipal benchmark average as well as the current EG staffing ratio to calculate a range of potential new positions. Scenario 1 was based on achieving the York Region official plan population target of 57,100 by 2031. An increase in population of approximately 15,400. Scenario 2 was a modified population growth scenario based on information that was shared during the February 2025 Council Growth Management Workshop. It was based on an estimate of 3,800 new households and a total population growth of 11,400. Next slide. For scenario 1, based on achieving the York Region official plan population growth, the estimated number of new positions over the next 5 years would have been in a range of 62 to 67. For scenario 2, the modified population growth scenario, the estimate number of new positions over the next 5 years would be 46 to 50. The staffing estimates for scenario 1 and 2 do not include addressing the staffing gap of 15 positions identified earlier. Next, please. The review of EG population and staffing growth in the review of comparator staffing levels helps establish the context for strategic workforce planning. A few comments on why strategic workforce planning is important. 1, an organization's workforce plays the critical role in advancing the town's strategic plan, providing quality services to residents that they expect, and for maintaining the town's growing infrastructure inventory. 2, it provides a holistic and comprehensive approach to forecasting staffing requirements based on workforce drivers and looks beyond population growth. And 3, it sets the stage for future budget planning. Strategic workforce planning is moving from annual operating to a multi-year staffing framework. It's not a replacement for the annual budget process, but it is an input. Next, please. To better understand the current state, we reviewed town practices using a workforce planning maturity model. The full model is found in the report. Overall, we feel the town's current business practices are a best fit at level 2. However, we did find evidence in a number of leading practice examples that would fit at level 3 or 4 of the model. Some of the examples include the Health and Active Living Plaza implementation and funding approach for staffing. It's closely aligned with level 4 of the model, a strong link between future staffing requirements and financial strategy. We also found reviews such as the Winter Maintenance Update Report provided a link between service standards and staffing levels. We believe that adopting the strategic workforce planning framework will position the town between level 3 and 4 on the maturity model. Next, please. The strategic workforce planning model for EG starts with the town's strategic plan and examines what it takes to advance the plan's deliverables. It analyzes the staffing implications of workforce drivers, business plans, capital projects, and what is needed to meet required service levels. At a high level, the strategic workforce planning process consists of directors reviewing current service levels, plans, and impacts of workforce drivers. Workbooks guide them through this process. General managers and the senior management team review and validate identifying staffing needs and options. And a 5-year staffing forecast is created to inform future budgets. It's a dynamic process and requires an annual review. Next, please. There are many types of workforce drivers that can be considered. Some examples of internal drivers are changes in workforce demographics, implementation of new technology, and the implications on staffing, job design, required skills. Example of external influences are changes in legislation, economic conditions, changes in the service mix driven by a changing community. The key is the examination of workforce drivers ensures that the strategic workforce planning exercise looks beyond the impact of just population growth. It examines the implication of workforce drivers on individual service areas. Next, please. The 2025 EG business plan and budget is an excellent source of performance and volume metrics that provide data on impact of some of the workforce drivers. Some examples of EG-specific workforce drivers include significant growth in infrastructure, such as roads, sidewalks, and parks that must be maintained. Demands for increased recreational programming to meet the growing needs of the community. Workforce drivers also impact internal support areas that are vital to protecting the organization and supporting external departments so that they can provide quality services. For example, people and belonging support attracting and retaining talent. An organization's competitive advantage is the people, and ensuring they are supported is vital. Technology improves business data to enhance decision-making, improves customer experience, and creates some service efficiency. Internal support services are critical to meet legislative compliance requirements for information management, financial reporting. Next slide, please. In summary, we found the town has strong organizational practices, a culture of innovation and continuous improvement, use of contractors to scale up and down, and a commitment to use technology for improvement purposes. We also found employee turnover risk is greater than the risk associated with employee retirements. The town's lean organizational staffing model and size makes it more susceptible to business continuity risk associated with single incumbent specialist positions. The town's employee experience strategy, e.g. You Belong, is a leading practice. It demonstrates the town's commitment to valuing and supporting staff. It is key to attracting and retaining a talented workforce. Next, please. The town's 25 staffing level is 9% below the municipal benchmark average for staff per 1,000. Based on 2 population growth scenarios, a range of 46 to 67 new positions may be required during the 26 to 2030 timeframe. This does not include addressing the 15 position gap, nor new requests from fire and emergency service staff. Next, please. In closing, the workforce planning next steps are continue to apply the strategic workforce framework and tools, develop that 5-year staffing plan, incorporate the staffing plan in the EG business planning and reporting cycle, in the annual business budget process to guide and help determine annual staffing requests, and review and update the staffing plan annually. And the last slide, please. On closing, Samita and myself want to thank all the town staff who shared information with us, council members for your time to meet with us, and the EG project team. This concludes the presentation, and be happy to take questions.
Thank you. Mita, do you have anything to add, or should I open up to questions?
No, nothing else to add. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, we have 2 recommendations before us. One is that this is received, and second, that staff consider the strategic workforce planning report in the annual business plan and budget process. Can I have someone move those recommendations? Mayor Haxon, thank you. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none. Oh, okay. Councillor Johns, and then Councillor Leahy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that, and moving that. So you move the recommendation to receive, and then the second item was to have it part of the business plan and budget as we move forward. And because it's tabled that way, I'm going to be voting no. If it was an amendment to receive, then I would vote in favor to receive it. But I recognize there has been an incredible amount of work that has gone into this with the consultants, but I will say that I was disappointed that the data was driven by comparators. And while I recognize to say that we were below average, the fact is that an average is based on a group of numbers. So there will always be people that are below that average. That doesn't mean that that we are underserving our residents here in East Gwillimbury. And I was disappointed that it didn't break out into specific departments where we suggesting where we could need it or would need it in the future, but it stayed at a high level. And so when you look at 82 positions, 67 plus the 15, even if you took a salary of 75,000, and I recognize that some of the positions would be more, that would be, just in quick math, that's a 17% increase in our operating budget. And that is not, a 17% tax increase is not something that I'm willing to support over 5 years without a presentation that's actually predicated on departmental information. And so I recognize that there is a pile of work, but my concern is that it also took into account 2 studies forecasting future growth. And I think that if this municipality had taken that approach when Upper York was happening and we were promised allocation, then the municipality could be even more exposed from an operating staffing perspective as plans haven't come to fruition. And so when we were in our preparatory meetings, and thank you to the staff for doing that, I was very clear and open about that I would happily entertain discussing this as the population moved an additional 10,000, but I just simply don't feel that it's appropriate to be approving and receiving as part of our 2026 business plan and budget. Because I recognize you don't take it as verbatim, but if what is contained within this document is translated into the business plan and budget, it would result in a dramatic increase to the residents. And so for that reason, I'm going to be voting no. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And just to clarify that the second part is that it be considered in the budget planning process. So it's not about adopting this, it's just to consider. And the 17% tax increase doesn't take into account that this is addressing increased residents, which would increase the tax revenue. I'm going to just throw it over to our general manager.
Sorry, but you commented, if I could just respond.
Okay.
I recognize that that's the motion, and I'm just going to be voting no, because I don't want it considered as part of the, even though it says consider, I don't want it to be considered.
Okay. I was going to throw it over to General Manager Gandhi to address some of your other concerns.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So Councillor Johns, thank you very much for addressing or identifying the points that you did. I'll just make a couple of points. There is no direct point-to-point relationship between our municipality and any other municipality in terms of an exact science. It's very difficult to say we have X number of kilometers and they have X number of kilometers, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. There's a number of things that we need to consider: technology, equipment, skill, et cetera, et cetera. And in terms of the identifying department by department, it would have been premature for us to say at this point, outside of the budget process, that this is the number of people we are looking to or identifying for the 2026 budget, because we're not at the budget process. We are currently looking at, due to the workbooks and the tools that Mr. McPherson has identified, a listing of all of the proposed positions for the next 5 years as per this report. So we are now working with the tools that the consultants had developed, and we are identifying by department, which will be coming to council at the appropriate time during the budget process. And so that's sort of, I hope I'm addressing at least part of what it was that you were coming across with, Councillor Johns. And in terms of talking about needs that we need to address service demands, we are considering things like growing infrastructure in the town as identified in the report, and so the need for support for that. We are looking at additional work volumes and succession planning associated with single incumbent positions, and those will be given a higher priority, or where there are needs, we talked about access to information or the need to support technology. Those types of positions and others are things that we are looking at, and in particular looking at where there is risk to the organization. And so I hope that satisfies the response to that point. Thank you.
Thanks. I don't know if it satisfies me. I think that I have approved reports and consultant reports in the past where I believe that was in a spirit and not in verbatim, and I appreciate what you're saying, because there needs to be some kind of guardrails around taking next steps within the department. But I will say that this report very blatantly and unapologetically says that between 2026 and 2030, that we should be suggestively hiring 82 people, when I don't believe that it is based in the in what could be truth in the future as we see it. And so, given that, I will continue to vote no. Thank you.
Did you want to respond?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The report is not intended to say that we're looking to have a certain percent tax increase, or that we are definitively looking to hire this number of people. That is not the intent of the report at all. It is simply to look at what would we need going forward as we anticipate population to grow, looking at the various growth scenarios, and what we could potentially look at in terms of growth. When we went to the departments and we asked them to identify the people, interestingly enough, not knowing this sort of range, that is the range that they came back with. And so we are actively now looking at the number of positions that department heads have identified through their consultation with staff, and looking to keep it somewhere in that range, because now we do, using the phrase the guardrails, we understand where it is that we need to sort of align with. And so that is, that's what we were trying to come across with in this report, not that there is a definitive number specifically. It is also important to recognize that we are going to be looking at this every single year. It is not a one and done. This is something that will actually launch the beginning of our business plan and budget process to on an annual basis, to revisit what positions do we need and what has changed, because things will change over the next term of council.
Thank you. I have a speakers list here. We have Councillor Roy DeClemente, and then Councillor Foster, and Councillor Leahy. I see your hand as well. Go ahead, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo the sentiments that Councillor Johns has brought up. I'm happy to receive this. There's some merit in having the information in front of us, but I am not at all interested in considering it as part of our business plan and budget process. Quite frankly, I actually don't see that it is strategic at all. To me, it simply takes the number of staff and divides it by our number of population, compares it to other municipalities, and says that we're short. And that is not strategic at all in my mind. It doesn't identify which departments we're short or which departments that we may be overstaffed in. It doesn't identify the number of single incumbent specialist positions that we have, which is absolutely a risk that our organization has. And it doesn't even address the use of part-time and contract staff to address surge capacity issues that we have done in the past. When we experienced that dramatic growth in our first phase, that's exactly what we did. We brought in people on contract who were inspecting plans and issuing building permits, and when those building permits were issued, their contracts ended, and we didn't need those staff, but we did need staff to collect the garbage and run programs for us in Parks and Rec. So for me, this report is absolutely a good news story. It tells us that our investments in modernization and other such strategies have paid off. That we are a lean and nimble organization, which is what we wanted to say. And when we hear from residents that they think we have too many staff, we can say, no, we're short, actually. But I don't see a 15-person gap across an organization of our size to be something that requires us, to Councillor Johns said, that it requires us to immediately start hiring people. And in fact, while council did vote to hire 18 people in 2024 and 14 in 2025, I don't think that's a trend that we necessarily need to see, particularly given that it isn't tied to our population numbers, and it's simply just simple math, quite frankly. And I'm with Councillor Johns on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gandhi, did you want to respond? I didn't see that the report was saying that we need to immediately fill that gap. It was just a data point that we're 9% behind. Did you want to respond to that?
It is very much a data point, and this is a little bit like an iceberg where there is a piece of us that is being presented to council, and then there's a whole lot of busy, duck feet underneath that will be presented to council over time. So I appreciate that whereas the numbers are on the report, by no means are we saying that we're going to go out and immediately put up job postings for 15 positions, nor are we saying that we are going to definitively put up job postings for any of that range. All of that depends on council's approval, first of all. And secondly, it depends on what our business need is. This just puts us in a better position to be able to think collectively and to plan for the future. We have not done that before. We have not looked as a collective on the administration side to say, where are there gaps? Where are there blind spots? How are we going to approach the future? And this gives us the resources and the tools to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
If I may, Madam Chair, just to respond to that.
Yes, go ahead.
In my opinion, we have done that. The report actually, our presenter did talk about the fact that we've taken strategic examples that have shown some maturity in our planning, and that's with our health and active living plaza planning for staffing and our winter maintenance. We're continuing to do that work. I'm happy to receive the report and have it inform future decisions, but I'm not putting it towards the budget process. Quite frankly, I didn't even want to receive it, but I understood that there were some important pieces of information that were in here that were valuable. It's just that I don't see it informing our annual budget process. Thank you.
Thank you. And over to Councillor Foster. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm squarely in the middle on this. I certainly understand where Councillor Johns and Councillor Roy DeClemente are coming from. I look at this as a really good reference point and a guidance point for us going forward, but I think that we cannot forget the fact that we're still going to rely very, very heavily on our general managers coming to us at budget time saying, this is what I need. And we have general managers that I think go along with the fact that we're running a little bit of a lean ship. And I think a lot of our residents appreciate the fact that we're running a lean ship. But we've had general managers come to us in the past with some pretty unique ideas as far as I am concerned. And this report maybe didn't go deep enough into a few things for me. So when we look at things like blended positions, we've done that in the past. We have a pretty extensive use of contractors. It's already been mentioned before. So those kind of things, I think, play into this report a little bit more than what we're looking at right now. The other thing that jumped out at me was, when we talk about our comparators and we talk about staff, the one thing I think that we're really missing here is how our service levels line up with everyone else's service levels. To put it very simply, if we have X number of kilometers of sidewalk and we say that they are going to be completely bare and serviced within 8 hours after the storm ends, and one of our comparators says they want to do it in 4, well, then that affects staffing levels in my mind. And maybe I'm making this too simple, but so I think that this is all good information for us to use going forward. And as long as our resolution doesn't specifically push it towards the budget process, again, we need to check that wording as we're going forward. Councillor Carruthers kind of explained it, but I think those are the things that jump out to me. If we have general managers that come to us and they have great efficiencies to make their department run better, then I think that all has to fall into what we're going to do for staffing here. When I look back again, it sounds like I'm going to the engineering part with Mr. Molinari, but we just experienced a pretty significant winter, and I think we got through that pretty well. I'm not saying that a couple of extra employees wouldn't have made it a whole lot better, but we did get through that very well. So when I look at, how lean we are, we're doing a pretty good job. So again, this report to me is a pretty good guidance note going forward at budget time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leahy is next. I just want to, and then Councillor Crone, I just wanted to say that I'm writing down some of the language that people are using. I'm understanding that people are worried that the way the second part is worded, to use this to consider in the budget process, that there's a fear that it's saying that this is all going to happen in the budget process. But I also heard that this is good information to use going forward. This should inform us going forward. So I think we're going to have to look at the language on that second part and get something that we're all comfortable with, because I think people do want to have an informed process. So I'll keep listening to and writing down what people are saying and see if we can come up with different language. Councillor Leahy and then Councillor Crone.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. I do not wish to see this included in the budget process. In my opinion, it was very unsatisfactory, the last budget process we went through, because the strong mayoral powers were being used for the first time, and I believe that it greatly restricted the flexibility of the previous budget processes that I had experienced as a councillor. And so I also agree with some of my fellow councillors that this should not be included in the annual business plan and the budget process. Every time we do a budget, every year, property taxes go up. And I can guarantee you they'll be going up again next year. I don't know by how much, but they'll be going up again next year. And every year when the budget process is put out to the public, the town of East Gwillim very proudly says that we have the lowest relative taxes in all of York Region. Now, our staff are excellent. our staff win awards. Our staff, we are proud as a municipality that we have a lean working group here at East Gwillimbury. And so, but staffing, it also has to be recognized, is the biggest budget item in any budget. And so I find it, I can't even comprehend how we would move forward if we are taking the recommendations that we increase our level of staffing by the growth in our population, at which is we are currently apparently behind on. So I think that there are many more nuances and subtleties that need to be investigated and researched, because I don't know how this would be sustainable in the future. And if we want to keep on discussing about levels of services, as Councillor Foster has mentioned, we would then have to look at long and hard at levels of services if we were going to dramatically increase the staffing levels. And so I just wanted to bring into this conversation some of those external factors that we may be aware of or may not be aware of that may influence this. The consultant, Mr. McPherson, presented some of them. But there are many decisions that are going to be made in 2025. And I attended the Regional Council meeting in April. Unfortunately, we didn't have any follow-up or feedback because our representative was unfortunately not in attendance at that. But the mayor of Newmarket said something very important at that regional meeting. And he stated that municipalities will be financially unviable between 10 and 20 years. And I am under the feeling and the impression that there are things coming down the road that we may not yet be anticipating, that we could be potentially financially unviable in a shorter time than that. So I don't feel that this is really taking a good hard look at which departments we need to be supportive of and which ones we don't. So there's not enough details in this report for me to be supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just a correction on that, this council 2 years in a row passed a 0% increase in the budget. So just make sure that that's...
Madam Chair, may I have a follow-up as others have?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and the results of that 2 years in a row having a 0% tax increase has put us in the hole of trying to make that up now. It may have seemed good at the time and giving a break to taxpayers at the time. One of those years was an election year, one of those years was during COVID, but in the long run, it was not a good idea.
Okay, we're not arguing about that, I'm just correcting.
You brought it up, yes.
No, I was correcting that you said taxes go up every year, I'm just correcting that they don't go up every year. We're not gonna have an argument about whether they should or
okay.
not.
Well, I think...
Just correcting the record.
Then I will...
Do you have a question to the presenter?
No, I
Okay.
don't have a...
Councillor Crone, can you
Thank you,
next?
Madam Chair. Who would have guessed a report around increasing staffing would have created so much discussion? I knew when this came across our agenda that this would be a lively debate, and why not? Want to thank staff and the consultants for preparing this. I think there are, I think as Councillor Roy DeClemente stated, there's some good news out of this, or some interesting numbers anyways. The modernization, I think, is working. We are, what's the stat, 9% lower than our comparators. Now this is interesting for me because I've heard it many times from residents who have the perception that we are overstaffed as a town. And this would tell us to the contrary. So I think we need to factor that into receiving this. Councillor Carruthers, you took my point. I was going to suggest that we rework the motion somehow because like my colleagues, I'm a little uncomfortable with considering this as gospel. It's a good piece of information, and it's one of many that we'll get. I have some ideas of other pieces of information that I would like from staff. So if we could maybe massage the wording on that, I think everyone would have greater comfort with it. I I wince when I see suggestions about, 46 to 57 staffing increases, but I know we're ultimately, anything, even if we receive it as is, we're the ultimate deciders up here of who we hire. So this doesn't commit us, if we receive it and as is, it does not commit us to doing that. We're going to go through the budget deliberations, and, as any good executive team, you're going to make your pitch for why you need extra staff, and we'll push back and make you qualify that. And that's the give and take of what we do here. I think, for me, there's a great discussion to be had going forward around multi-year planning. I think if we can get into, I hate this 1 year, at the executive level, which you folks are at, the general managers and the director level, us up here, we need to be thinking 2-3 years out for planning. 1 year planning, that's not where we should have our heads at. We need to be multi-year planning. And I would throw out to our CEO and our mayor that you need to be thinking at least 5 years out. That's the sort of strategic planning that we should be engaged in. From any good, this is from my corporate background, the way we always looked at it. So I get uncomfortable when we're only doing 1 year out. I don't think we're being reactionary. We're not being proactive. I would love to see a report on if we enacted this, what would the property tax look like if we did that? I think that's a viable piece of information we should have. I'd like to know some indicators that we know of when we may be teetering on overworking our staff. Things like, are there elevated numbers of sick days? Are people taking unpaid vacation? There are key indicators that we can look to and glean information from that. Because if you're in, and I've been in them before corporately, where the morale is so low in a corporation because the staff force are at the breaking point. The morale is low, fear is high, and your good people are looking to get out, and the slackers, I'm sorry to say, are in hiding. We never want to be in there. I've been there. It's horrible, and it's not good for anyone, and we owe it to the citizens to make sure that never happens. So I would like to see some more information around that. I certainly don't want to overwork the workforce, but we have to be, again, respectful of the tax of tax dollars. And so we want to make sure that we're a place where people want to not only come to live, but they want to come here to work. And so I appreciate the work that's gone into this. I think there's some good information in it, but I wouldn't make it our roadmap for the future. So I probably exceeded my 5 minutes, Madam Chair. So I'm going to stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crone. Councillor Leahy, I see your hand, but we just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak first before we go into seconds. Mayor Haxon, did you have any comments on this? Okay, thank you. I've been saving my thoughts on this. I think this is a very thought-provoking piece of research that we've put together. And like others have said, I'm glad that we now have the data to show to our residents we are not overstaffed. I think it is good to be gathering this type of information to inform the budget process, not to say that this is what we have to do in the budget process, but to have more data going in. Since my time on council, the budget process has evolved so much from just getting the binder where everything was in there all at once to now we're doing more strategic, looking at the business plan first, getting some agreement on that before moving forward. So I think it's all how we look at consider is the key word in this, that each one of us is taking in a different way. Because I've been working, because it's within my department, I've been working on this. I understand what you mean by consider. Councillor Crone saying consider as gospel. Yes, you could take it to that extreme. Others saying they don't want it as part of the budget process. So I'm thinking that we will separate the motion, Madam Mayor, and vote on the receipt first when we're done asking the questions. And Councillor Leahy, I do see your hand. we'll separate and we'll consider the second part separately. I think that you've heard that council is not interested in closing that gap now. So I'm wondering if we wanted to have a motion to that effect, because people are very passionate about it, or if it's been heard loud and clear. They are interested, what I'm hearing from my colleagues, interest in going department by department. So they are interested in another step to this, interested in the multi-year planning aspect of it. So we just need to think of the second part of that recommendation. Those are all of my comments. Oh, just thanking the presenter for helping us to identify where our vulnerabilities are as well as our strengths. I think it's really important to have that topmost of mind when we're making decisions. Councillor Leahy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So no part of this conversation has included a discussion about working from home versus working in person. There's all kinds of factors that need, in my opinion, to be also considered. As a previous councillor has mentioned, discussing contract staff, discussing the external factors like whether we get a hospital, whether we aren't selected for the hospital, other external factors like tariffs and other economic factors that are beyond our control. But so I think that there's been previous discussion about building a new civic center. I think that also needs to be part of it. We have a space report, et cetera, and if people are working from home and they're not coming in more than 2 or 3 times a week, what would that also look like to take into consideration when we're making decisions about new hires in the future? So I think there's other factors that need to be discussed. But from all the awards we've been winning, it's my understanding that the current staff that we have expressed being very pleased with their work experiences here at the town of East Gwillimbury. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to vote on receipt. If there is no other comments, go ahead, Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted, my thoughts have evolved as I've listened to the discussion and hearing Councillor Roy DeClemente's positioning on where she stood. I know that I said previously that I would vote to receive and vote no, but my thoughts have evolved listening to the conversation. The document is entitled the Strategic Workforce Planning Report for 2026 to 2030, and I just feel that the information contained within that report doesn't rise to the level to give the Strategic Workforce Planning Report title the weight that it should, and so to that end, I'm going to vote no to receive it as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. But just for the record, it is being received by Council. We have received it. We've listened to the report. Council has received it. So it is a housekeeping thing that I've talked many times about, that it's kind of counterintuitive that when we are receiving a report and then we vote on it. But I hear your concerns. We are going to divide the motion. I think what I'm hearing is that the report is simultaneously too much and not enough at the same time. So, you know, you've hit a nice happy medium. So we are looking simply right now for the vote to receive. And can I ask for all in favor?
Tara.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Councillor Roy DeClemente, I didn't see your hand.
No, that's okay. I just put it up. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to your point about my vote at this point, it is strictly a housekeeping matter, and we are receiving it. But like Councillor Johns, I don't think it rises to its name. Let's put it that way. That I don't see it as being strategic enough for us. So I'm voting to receive it simply because it's on our agenda and we've discussed it. And so that's the only reason why I'm voting in favor of the first portion of your motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So all in favor of receipt alone? And that's carried. Thank you. The second part of the motion, I am sensing that there isn't an appetite for this. Ms. Gandhi, did you have different wording? Or I'm hoping that you've heard the comments and staff can work forward based on those comments.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, my recommendation, I'm not sure how this technically can be done, but for us to simply remove the second motion if that's possible.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, since you moved it, can you please just withdraw the second part of the motion?
I will do that, thank you.
Thank you. And so with that,
Excuse me, sorry. Point of order.
Yes.
I have a question, Madam Chair, about the order of procedure. Do we need to vote on withdrawing the motion as it is before us before we vote, before we just proceed that way? It's my understanding that we should vote on whether or not we want to withdraw it. We've had lots of discussion about that part of the motion, and so I would like to have the opportunity to vote on it. So
the mayor,
I'd like the town clerk, if I may, answer my procedural question. Thank you very much.
okay. So as I'm sitting in the chair, I'll let you know that, that the mayor has withdrawn that, so it is not before us as a question. If you wanted to put it on the floor, I would entertain that.
So we didn't vote on withdrawing it.
No, that's not what we do. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Chair, in accordance with Section 15(6) of your procedure bylaw, after a motion is moved, it is in the possession of council, and it typically may not be withdrawn without the consent of the mover. The mover has consented to withdraw the item, Councillor Leahy. So at this point, there is no motion for contemplation unless you would like to present a brand-new motion for the committee's consideration.
I'll take that as a no. And we'll move on to the next item, which is the Joint Corporate Services and Development Services presentation and Memorandum Thinking Green Development Standards Update Process. Ms. Gandhi?
Through you, Madam Chair, this is very much a joint effort with Development Services and Jack Ribnick as the acting general manager. And I'd like to introduce Chris Ross, Environmental Initiatives Program Manager, who would be speaking to the Thinking Green Development Standards and the update that is going to be provided to Council. Thank you, Ms. Ross.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. As you see in the memo, it says for receiving the information about stage 1 of our Thinking Green Development Standards update. And with us online, we have Gaby Calapos, which is the Executive Director of the Cleaner Partnership, who was the consultant that we hired to help us with the stage 1, and are the ones also who won the contract for stage 2, for phase 2 of our update. So I will leave the floor to Gaby Calapos unless there is any question from Council.
Thank you. Is there any questions from Council? You were presenting this?
I'm presenting Gaby Calapos, which is going to do a presentation about the
Sorry, I couldn't see. I
update.
couldn't see her on there. So yes, go ahead, Gabby. Sorry, I couldn't see you.
Thank
I
you
was
so much.
A little confused. Thank you.
No,
Go ahead.
no problem. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor Haxon, and thank you, council members. Thank you, staff, and everybody for allowing me time to speak to the Green Development Standards update process for East Gwillimbury. Next slide, please. So as you know, I wanted to just kind of highlight and give you a bit of background on who we are and the type of work we do. Cleaner Partnership is a charitable environmental organization, and we work with municipalities and their various partners to help them with the advancement of their climate action implementation, and really trying to ensure that we reduce duplication of efforts across different municipalities. Next slide, please. And just a little bit about the agenda. We'll talk a little bit about the rationale and the thinking behind why green development standards are so critical. We'll also talk a little bit about what came out of phase 1 work, and then we'll do a little bit about phase 2, and then and the next steps as well. Please, next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the key factors and why municipalities are advancing green development standards is we know that there's a significant amount of growth that is taking place within our East Gwillimbury and across the whole of Southern Ontario. And each new development
is going to be increasing greenhouse gas emissions and really trying to understand how do we improve the efficiency of our building stock and avoid future retrofits while achieving our decarbonization goals and in cost-effective manner. Ultimately, really what it comes down to, we cannot achieve our greenhouse gas targets without addressing emissions coming from the building sector. They're very, very significant, and they range between anywhere from 40 to 60% in greenhouse gas emissions from Ontario municipalities. Next slide, please. And I did want to highlight, we'll get into a little bit about the energy efficiency and greenhouse gas emissions metrics, because we often tend to spend a fair amount of time focusing on those metrics. But I wanted to kind of really highlight the green development standards are not only about the energy and emissions use of the building. It looks at bird-friendly design. It leads with electric charging, vehicle charging, the tree canopy, the soil depth, stormwater management, active transportation infrastructure, and really how close it is to transit and overall community design. So I did want to kind of highlight all of the different metrics that go into municipal green standards, all aimed at improving the sustainability of new developments. Next slide, please. I wanted to highlight some of the other municipalities advancing green development standards, and I also wanted to give a shout out to East Gwillimbury, who was the first one to do a green development standard, and even prior to Toronto. So really setting the stage, and it's really great to see these advancements in the green development standards over time that East Gwillimbury is advancing. Did want to highlight that the dots with the white, the circles with the white dots are where municipalities have green development standards in play, and the orange ones are where they're in progress. Also wanted to highlight outside of the GTHA, there's also green development standards being advanced in Grey County, Dufferin County, Welland County, and Waterloo Region. Really, many municipalities are moving forward on their green development standards and in order to achieve the sustainability developments of their new developments. Next slide, please. So we did want to highlight, again, the shout out to East Gwillimbury for the first TGS. Then the town really wanted to kind of highlight the need for updating of the green development standard. So it was last updated in 2018 and just updating it again in that time period of 2024, 2025. We've done 3 internal workshops to really engage staff and different departments to understand their perspective, understand the learnings from implementation of the past green development standard, and hopes that they have for the update of the green development standard, the outcomes they really want the green development standards to move forward on. And then just in terms of kind of I'm going to be speaking to what was done in phase 1 and what we've heard, and then that we're going to be moving forward on phase 2 with the next round. Next slide, please. One of the key things that came from the discussions based on engaging with staff and senior management and all across different departments is really what's really important is that the archetypes, the targets are set to different archetypes. So Part 9 buildings, meaning low-rise developments with single family up to 4 stories would be low-rise. And also, let's say Part 3, more higher-rise buildings, anything above 4 stories, be having different archetypes and different and looking at them specifically to meet those types of needs of those buildings. One of the other key things that really came out was the desire for harmonization. The harmonization, not wanting to go alone in East Gwillimbury, wanting to kind of keep consistent with other municipal green development standards, but also advancing it to where the market is able to manage in green development standards. So there's the balancing between harmonization and leading practices, and that was really one of the things that came in from the input that we heard from staff and senior management. Really wanted to highlight the development community to demonstrate compliance, really helping the development community understand the rationale for why the green development standards are so critical, why these metrics were the one that was chosen, what they mean to the sustainability of the community and the overall operations and stormwater management, energy use, climate change commitments within the municipality. Really highlighting a streamlined application review to ensure that green development standards are embedded into the planning review process, that there is a review across different departments and each department knows that what they're inputting into the green development standard and planning application review when they undertake them. to provide flexibility. We did hear from experiences in other municipalities that developers were very interested in both a performance target, which is the leading practice on green development standards, but in particular low-rise developments were looking for a little bit of a kind of alternative pathway that's more prescriptive. That was one of the things that came out as in terms of a leading practice and a way to move forward on green development standards. Did want to highlight the last time the Thinking Green Development Standard was updated is in 2018. We're in 2024, wanting to move forward with where the green development standards in municipalities have gone during that time period and go towards the leading practice. So those are some of the kind of top level recommendations. I'll just go on that came out of phase 1. And next slide, please. Really one of the key things, staff training, helping staff manage the overall GDS planning review process. Also community awareness, wanting to build awareness amongst the community that East Gwillimbury is advancing green development standards and why East Gwillimbury is advancing green development standard. Did want to kind of provide some flexibility in terms of, kind of specific development, like wanting to kind of like if solar's not possible because of orientation issues, you want to have flexibility in your metrics. They're not hard and fast kind of like must absolutely do. There could be explanations for why it might be more challenging in certain areas. For example, if the LID requirements may be a challenge if you have clay soils. Those are not conditions that that can be done something about, and so there's some flexibility on that one. Looking at incentives and the different incentives municipalities are using to drive uptake to voluntary higher than mandatory requirements in the Green Development Standard, and also advancing a mandatory tiered approach, which is emerged as a leading practice in green development standards that municipalities are advancing. So those are some of the kind of key recommendations and input we heard from the different stakeholders that we reached out to, both on the staff level, as well as in consultations that we did with other municipalities all across the region advancing green development standards. Next slide, please. So I did want to highlight, we're going to be reviewing East Gwillimbury's plans, that are bringing in what kind of metrics are in other plans, which ones are the gaps that green standards can address, looking at developing draft metrics and then workshopping them with East Gwillimbury team in terms of the different departments who are involved in the green development standards planning application review process, undertaking stakeholder consultations both within the development community as well as with the other stakeholders such as conservation authorities, other municipalities, NGOs in the community, and then developing a supporting guidebook and for supporting developers to understand why these metrics were chosen, why they're so important, what they mean to the sustainability of the community, and different resources that can help them understand where they can gain additional information on each of these different metrics. And then we will also be looking at the kind of options on green development standards incentives for the higher than mandatory requirements and staff training to support the review of green development standards through the planning application process. And next slide, please. And I wanted to thank you very much for the time on your agenda, and I'd love to answer any questions you may have on either one of the recommendations or next steps or green development standards in general. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that presentation. Really gives us a lot to think about, that it's so much more than just the buildings. It's the streets, the transit, the proximity to amenities. It's a lot for us to think about, and I'm proud that we were one of the first ones, if not the first one, to have this. And I've stayed many times in this council chambers that we just need to make sure that we are enforcing them. So I know we're not there yet, but as this unrolls, I want to make sure that the things that we are putting into this, we're not just talking to it, but it's actually stuff that we can enforce, because that's the only way that we're going to get to where we need to go. Before I open it up for comments and questions, was there anything else you want to add, or should I open up questions? Okay. Any questions from council? I'm not seeing any hands up online. Yes, Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you to our presenter, thank you very much for the work that you've done thus far, and to congratulations to Chris Ross on bringing this forward as well. I was actually on council when we did the first iteration of this, and the goal was that we wanted lead building standards, Energy Star buildings, but that we wanted more than just that. And the development community told us that LEED was basically just paying for a consultant, but that they would prefer to take that money that they would spend on a consultant and put it into actually meaningful change in how our communities are built. And it wasn't just about the building envelope, but the entire community. And so that's been our goal all along with these development standards. I have found it frustrating because I've wanted to make sure that they've been meaningful and that they've affected meaningful change. And so having our development review committee make sure that those standards are raised with proponents who are coming in for an application, but also when it comes back to council for a report, to make sure that we have an understanding of what optional points they've worked towards, and making sure that some of those low-hanging ones are actually mandatory points. And so I guess what I'd like to see when it comes back to us is some strategies on how to make sure that it's enforceable and meaningful, which leads me to the second part of my, I guess, comment or statement. Is the question is that I'd like to know what the impact of Bill 17 will have on our standards, because I understand that there's some possible changes being made at the provincial level that would impact environmental standings at the municipal level.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Through the chair, thank you so much for those questions. In terms of the LEED and Energy Star labels, many municipalities will kind of speak to it, kind of thing like there's these metrics that you can use for the energy efficiency and GHG emissions associated with the building, or equivalents. Municipalities do not want to pick any labeling program over another labeling program, and they don't particularly care either how the development achieves the outcomes. They're invested in the outcomes. That's what they look for. So there's often a lot of flexibility that municipalities have. Like if you want to go for LEED standards and you're kind of reaching, let's say, the CAGBC net zero targets, by all means, there's very few municipalities will have any issues with that. What they did want to do is provide consistent standards across the different municipalities and different developments to advance both energy efficiency and climate considerations associated with new buildings. So there's no municipality green standard that I am aware of that has a requirement on a specific standard or LEED, CAGBC, Canada Home Building. There's a number of them, and so they don't want to pick winners. They're invested in the outcome. So this is what we want. How you get there, not so important to us. So I did want to kind of speak to that. There's no need for kind of choosing one standard over another, or even requiring standardization standards associated with that. In terms of voluntary versus mandatory metrics, that has been one of the key critical learnings over the last decade and a half of green standards. Is unfortunately we have found, and the data has shown, that voluntary checklist measures like, did you consider this, did you consider this, do not work in driving uptake. A mandatory green development standard is required in order to drive uptake. And municipalities don't care about whether it's mandatory or voluntary. They cared about uptake. When they found that their voluntary standards weren't getting uptake, they moved towards mandatory standards, and that made a big difference in the results that they were achieving. That also made a difference in terms of being able to provide clarity for municipalities on the tiered mechanism. So this is tier 1. This is what we're expecting of you at this point in time. Tier 3 and tier 2, or tier 2 and tier 3 are voluntary. You do not have to reach that standard, but it's where the municipality is going, and that provides clarity to the development community for the roadmap and the time frame that they're going to be and building their capability to meet those standards. So I did want to highlight that kind of really is a key mechanism that municipalities are using, and it is working on driving increased uptake from the tiered approach, mandatory approach. Bill 17 is very confusing. We are not sure. What does it mean for green standards? There's 3 different interpretations that we've heard so far. The first one is that those municipalities with green standards in place the Bill 17 will not have an effect on their green development standards because they've already brought in their green development standards to the official plan. And Bill 17 requires a municipality to identify what are the plans that they're going to require as part of a full development application, and those plans need to be referenced in their OP. Because East Gwillimbury has a green development standard, because it's part of your OP, you would just need to identify the plans that you're requiring as part of your green development standard compliance. If you were a municipality that didn't have a green development standard, you would actually have to go to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and ask for permission to advance a green development standard within your community, which is, you know, a tad patronizing, but that is one interpretation of what the green development standards, what Bill 17 means to green development standards. It's still unsure because when you look at the press releases from ResCon, who was advocating with the lobbying the provincial government for reducing and eliminating municipal green standard authorities, they say they have one and that green standards are no more. They'll all be required to be voluntary. Unfortunately, if that is the case, we will see a significant reduction in uptake because we have evidence that voluntary metrics just do not drive the uptake in the development community that we all desire. So it's still very ambiguous on what it means in terms of the green standards. Have municipalities with green standards, do they still retain their green standards as long as they put those reports into their list of reports that they need as part of a full development application? And we're still kind of going through this process to understand what Bill 17 actually means for green standards. So I wish I had more clarity I could provide for you, but unfortunately I don't just as yet. And we are working across municipalities to understand how their legal departments are interpreting Bill 17 and what that means for green standards. And I'd be happy to come back to you when I have more information on that. But unfortunately, I don't have any clarity that I could provide for you today on that one, outside of the two interpretations that we've heard.
You started out as being very reassuring, and now I'm not so sure. But thank you for staying on top of this on our behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have someone move receipt of this? Councillor Crone, any other questions? Councillor Leahy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. I have a question on the very first slide that you shared with us, Ms. Galapos. You stated that York Region, the building sector emissions were 3.36 million tons in 2023 of CO2, and 42% of the total emissions in the York Region that came from buildings. Do you have a number for what percentage, what portion of EGs is in that figure of 42%, and where did the 42% come from?
The 42% came from York Region doing an inventory of their energy use and GHG emissions associated within their community. So they look all of the different energy use, both in the residential, commercial, and ICI sector, brought it all together to understand how much energy use is within the York Region. They have not broken it down in the municipality breakdown, but I do know that Chris is working on undertaking an inventory and the climate action plan process. And that's one of the first steps that any municipality does when they're advancing their their climate action planning, is understanding where their energy use is within their community and the sectors that they're going to need to address. It could vary a little bit in terms, like it could be 45 for East Gwillimbury, it could be up to 48, but generally one of the key things we found from the inventories that municipalities have done all across the Greater Golden Horseshoe area is that buildings really generally count for somewhere between 40%, especially in the more further out areas where transportation is a bigger share of the emissions pie and energy use pie, or Toronto, where it's almost 60% of emissions come from buildings because transportation's less than in many other areas, in the further areas that don't have as well served by public transit. But that's where the information came from.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other comments or questions. We have a motion before us to receive this report. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Ms. Gandhi, did you have anything else to add?
Through you, Madam Chair, no. Thank you very much.
I'll hand the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're at item I for Development Services with Councillor Roy DeClemente in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I will apologize in advance to all of you. What I've done is I've pinned you as much as I could to my screen so that I can see hands, but if I don't see them, if you wouldn't mind using your raise hand feature. And also the cat is misbehaving, and he may make an appearance, and I apologize in advance. I hope none of you are allergic. So the first item on our agenda is Planning Branch Report DS2025-09, which is regarding the application for the Telecommunication Tower at 19442 Second Concession Road. Mr. Krupnik, did you want to present this to us?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Today we heard from a deputant about the tower, or the question around the tower in this report by Cheyenne Zierler. Senior Planning Manager, apologies, with Shared Tower Inc. Taking that information into consideration, I am going to suggest to Council that something today, just that given the information provided today by our tower deputant, including some clarity around with regards to the proposal, I would suggest to Council that we refer this item back to staff to provide staff some time to review the additional information provided today by our deputant, as well as to resolve some of the outstanding concerns presented through our report. The suggestion, though, would be to bring this report back to Council perhaps later in the month of June, just to provide some time for those that review and those discussions to take place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krupnik. So I did not ask for a mover, but it sounds like what we're going to do is I know there was some discussion about timing as far as referring it back to staff. And so, given that you're available to bring it back to us in June, this will just buy you a little bit of time. I saw Councillor Leahy's hand first, and then Councillor Johns. Go ahead, Councillor Leahy.
Thank you very much, through Madam Chair. So my concern again is the timing. If we open up the question of the location and we did not, discuss any options prior to this, I'm just concerned that it's going to come back to us at the end of June, and then there'll still be debate and concern about the location of it, which couldn't be resolved that day, and that there's the potential that this could go further in terms of delaying this motion that we have before us. So,
Mr. Krupnik, did you want to comment? I think it's also because, as a council, we have to commit to ourselves that we're going to be decisive about this. I think my concern would be that if we were to issue a letter of non-concurrence, as staff have recommended to us, we wouldn't be doing the community a service, because we recognize the need for the infrastructure to be installed. So, as I understand it, we have adjacent landowners, including the school board, who are not happy with the location. So it behooves us to make sure that we can investigate further, have staff make sure that they've checked all those other locations, and then come back to us within a month. Mr. Krupnik, anything further to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing further to add.
I had someone else. Was it Councillor Johns? Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you to Mr. Krupnik, I recognize that the deputant is sitting in the audience, but maybe an indirect question. During the deputation, it was discussed that a couple of other locations were explored but didn't prove fruitful. Now, Mr. Krupnik, from your knowledge, did the other locations that were explored by the proponent, I'm not sure of the exact wording of whether they said that it did not meet the criteria that they had, or I guess really what I'm coming to is was the criteria met, and then when tried to secure a financial arrangement with the property owner, that they were unsuccessful. That's really what I would kind of like clarity on from those other locations.
Mr. Krupnik?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think Councillor Johns, to your point, I think that's exactly the kind of clarity that we would like to receive ourselves and to bring back to Council later in June.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Carruthers?
Thank you. You mentioned school board had concerns. I didn't see any letters to that effect. So when this comes back, I'd be interested to know exactly what their concerns are. There is an elementary school site just down the street from that site, so I can't imagine it being an elementary site. It's not located in an area that would make a good high school. I mean, it was supposed to be a high school back in the 90s, and our community has developed very differently since then. I've heard a MIN center floated as a possible use. I'm not sure the school board would want an MIN center without any cell phone service. So I think that we need to circle back with the school board to ask them exactly what their concerns are. Holding that site since the 90s for a school, I don't know if we should be entertaining continuing to hold it free of any cell towers, because one day, 20, 50 years from now, there might be a school there. So I think I just want clarity on what the school board's position is, and I'm happy to support referring it back to staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carruthers. Any further comments? Okay, so I've got a motion here. Perhaps someone would make it for me that we receive the report and that we refer the matter to staff for further investigation and report back to CWC in June.
I'm happy to make that motion,
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair.
Okay, so I had Councillor Carruthers, since it's located in your ward. I'm going to go with your hand moving it, and then I see Councillor Leahy. You'd like to comment on the motion.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to request that we separate the motion so that we receive it, but that we have a separate vote on whether or not we issue a letter of non-concurrence today.
Well, we're not discussing the letter of non-concurrence whatsoever. At this point, we're simply referring the matter. We've received the matter and referring it back to staff for a report to us in June. So I have it moved by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? Any opposed? I don't see any hands, and that motion is carried. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I should have asked, did you capture the intent of that motion, since I'm not sitting beside you?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we have.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda is Development Services Planning Branch Report DS2025-09, which is an official plan amendment, a zoning bylaw amendment, and an allocation request for 19820 Holland Landing Road, which is also known as the 6 Development, Inc. We have a motion that we receive the report, that we approve the official plan amendment, that we approve the redesignation. So 2 pieces of the official plan amendment be approved, that we approve the zoning bylaw amendment, that we allocate 84 cubic meters a day of servicing from our ICI reserve to facilitate the development, and that the condition be that they obtain site plan approval, and that we approve that we allow the ability to rescind the assignment of servicing without further notice if site works do not commence by May 6, 2026. Mr. Krupnik, would you like to kick this off? I know we had a deputant earlier today, and there were some questions asked then, and I'm just hoping that you can answer some of those and move this forward for us, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I think the deputy went into some great detail about their proposal, and you certainly just went through the recommendations presently. So I think I would leave it for council to ask any questions of myself, and I'm here to answer any of those questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So one of the questions I had for you, Mr. Krupnik, was the variances. So at this point, we're seeking a variance in the zoning bylaw to allow for the less than 1 meter reserve sort of spacing or setback. What other variances are we granted already from our existing zoning bylaw for this site plan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I could certainly say that for a C3 zoning, I believe for the front, rear, and exterior side yard setback, the permitted setback is 3 meters. So, we would take staff recommendation, and then also the deputation from the applicant should be viewed in that light, I would imagine. So that is the standard kind of setback for a C3. However, we do feel that something less than that is suitable here, and that's what's reflected in our report.
Thank you. So I just wanted to clarify, because we had some comments earlier that there was an impression made that so that our zoning had been exceeded. In fact, it's a 3-meter setback around the building, and we're allowing for 1 meter. Staff's recommendation right now is for 1 meter, and it sounded like there may have been some appetite to go even lower in order to allow for that corner to be, I think it was 0.5 meters from the lot line. So members of committee, any questions, concerns, statements? Go ahead, Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unless it's otherwise captured, I'm quite happy to offer a suggestion that we allow for the what was it, the 0.47 setback that the applicant was requesting. Happy to make that amendment. If I don't know who the mover is, but
We actually don't have a mover because I didn't do that part.
well, then I'm happy to move it with that amendment.
All right, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can get behind the amendment. I think it's time that we move forward with this development. I think the reduced setback is okay. They did give us some examples in their presentation of, excuse me, of other places where the same type of thing has happened. So, you know, we talk about a gateway to the town, and that's part of the selling feature of this. It's an irregular piece of property. For years, I've looked at that property thinking nobody's ever going to do anything with it. Here we are with a group that wants to step ahead and do that for us. I think about years gone by. I spoke to the mayor yesterday about this, and I think about years gone by when Councillor Johnson at the time talked about some things at that intersection that certainly didn't look nice coming into town. This development, I think, takes a major step and beyond that. So I think I can support moving this ahead. Let's get this development going.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Go ahead, Councillor Carruthers.
I concur with that. I'm wondering if with the amendment, we can be specific that it's that one corner of the building. I don't want to end up with the entire building being 0.47 from that sidewalk. I know that there's been a lot of work done to move the building and position it in such a way, but I'm hoping that it's understood that we want that setback to be just in that one spot, not all the way around the building. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. Mr. Krupnik, my thought might be that we would take that the clause that refers to the zoning bylaw amendment, the ZBA 24-01, and say that we approve it in principle as amended. And then when you bring it back to us to council for ratification, that you would attach that in its entirety so that we can be sure that the zoning reflects council's intention. Would that be appropriate?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think it would be appropriate. Would it be okay with yourself if we had placed on the screen in the amendments that are being requested by the applicant so that it's clear to council?
Yes, please. Madam Clerk, would you mind doing us the honors?
Through you, Madam Chair, the amendments are noted in red, I believe, on the screen before you.
Okay, so members of committee, I have a motion from Councillor Crone so we're actually just putting it in as amended. So at this point that we would approve the zoning bylaw amendment included as Appendix 10 as amended, rather than approving it in principle. You good with that, Councillor Crone? All right, thumbs up. Okay, any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And a chorus of hands, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is Development Services Branch Report DS2025-09 regarding an extension of draft plan of standard condominium approval for 19267 Center Street, which is also under Ontario Limited number that we refer to as Averton. Mr. Krupnik, would you like to present this? Actually, before I do that, I will say that the report is requesting that we receive and that we approve an extension of 1 year. May I have a mover for this? Councillor Leahy. Okay, Mr. Krupnik, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we've seen a number of these already in this year, and probably is reflective of our kind of economic environment somewhat. I know this development itself is on the cusp of being completed. There is a little bit more time that's required of the applicant to complete the development. We can all drive by it today and see it in its current state. So they are asking for an extension. I would say it's not a 2 or 3 year extension request, but a 1 year extension request, so that they could see this through to completion. And granting that time would allow them to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. Within the past week, I have fielded multiple calls and texts and questions, and out while walking, residents have approached me and asked me when it will be completed. It is very much needed to help be part of completing the downtown Mount Albert area with the 10 storefronts and the 10 residential units above, which would be most welcome in our community to have additional possibilities for housing as well as additional commercial and other services in our local community. So I'm very much in favor of extending it by a year so that it can be completed and we can move forward as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Crone, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Krupnik. I'm curious as to the delays that are involved with this. I'm happy to give the extension, but to me, and just like my colleague, Councillor Leahy, I've had fielded many calls from different residents about what the heck the status is of this. Certainly that they're very excited about the commercial part of it. What's the holdup? I know it's not the market, because I've sent them many leads for people wanting to rent. So I'm really confused by what the delay is. Would you be able to shed any light on this? And I'll throw out a second question to you. Are they all in good? Are they up to date on all their financials with the town as well, to make sure that I think there's letters of credit and whatnot. I just want to make sure that everything's in good order there. Thank you.
Mr. Krupnik?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the primary consideration for the extension is the substantially complete the building. So I believe as of yet, and I would have to confirm this, Councillor, but I believe occupancy may not have been granted presently, and certainly final inspections have not been granted. So it appears to be that substantial completion has not been obtained yet by the applicant. And I'm sorry, Councillor, you had a second question, I believe, a follow-up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they are in good financial standing with the town, with letters of credit, et cetera. There's no issues there from your perspective?
Through you, Madam Chair. So there are I guess I would say invoices outstanding by this developer related to the site. I believe most of them are related to the adjacent residential site, and some of them are around security invoices. Some of them are around invoices for the maintenance of the roads prior to them being maintained by the condo corp itself. So there are outstanding invoices through you, Madam Chair. I see this as really, though, the extension of the draft plan as being somewhat separate from those issues. Yes, it would be nice for us to collect on those. We do also have securities in place in those agreements in which I believe those securities are the appropriate place to draw upon if we need to rectify those deficiencies in invoices.
Thank you, Mr. Krupnik. It's not lost on me that this was part of the deal with Averton that the town had, was that they were supposed to deliver this commercial building before they delivered the townhouses. And so it's there wasn't an original delay. I believe we ended up extending them because they were saying they were having trouble getting steel. So we know they've got steel because there's a building shell there now. It's disappointing that they're being slow and with delivering on this. I might suggest that we staff, Mr. Krupnik, would it be appropriate for us to authorize you to draw on letters of credit should that become necessary?
Through you, Madam Chair, that is something that would be a discussion between staff if the necessity does arise. I don't know if I would be requesting council to direct staff to do so, but rather I would perhaps recommend that it be left to staff to make a determination if that's the course that's required.
Thank you. My concern is that if they've got outstanding invoices with us, we give them the extension and then they still don't finish or pay us. It's suggesting to me that there are some bigger issues at play here. So that's where I'm coming from with it. Members of committee, any further questions or comments? At this point, we're just providing a 1-year extension. Seeing no other comments, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. And the last item on our prepared agenda today is a memorandum regarding a proposed community design plan for the northwest corner of Green Lane, and I guess it would be Green Lane and Yonge. May I have a mover for receipt, please? Moved by Councillor Johns. Thank you. Mr. Krupnik, would you like to introduce this memorandum, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to say that I think it's somewhat exciting to receive a community design plan application and for us to be able to try to fulfill some of the vision or move forward some of the visions within our Green Lane secondary plan. So we do anticipate having or starting consultation on this matter, I believe, in the coming months.
Great.
Thank you.
Members of committee, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thank you. Just a comment more than anything. I was interested when I read this memo, and we're looking at wording in there that says to allow for secondary suites, which we all understand. I would really like to see some wording in there that says we're going to try to allow for some secondary parking. Every development we build, parking is an issue. I've been kind of growling about this one for a long time. We need to have some new innovative ideas from both the development community and maybe ourselves to come up with some secondary parking. There's not a road in any of our new developments that you can drive up that you don't have to mimic a snake to go around all the cars that are parked on the side of the road. So I think I'd like to see some wording in there to do with parking.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank God for power steering, right? Mr. Krupnik, I also note that there's a property, that this property includes a heritage house. So I hope that the planning process will also include some consideration for that. I see you nodding on my screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you through you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you very much, councillors, for your comments. They're much appreciated, and they'll definitely help us lead this consultation process.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. So I have a motion from Councillor Johns that we receive the memorandum. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. That's the end of our prepared agenda. Mr. Krupnik, did you have anything further to present to committee?
Nothing further. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, and members of committee, anything further? Seeing none, I'll turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just see what number we're at here. We're at item J. We still have a little ways to go. Engineering and Public Works, Councillor Hay is our chair. And, I'm just wondering if we can set that up, and then perhaps we can take 15 minutes to stretch. We've been sitting for quite some time. So when we come back, then we will be dealing with that one. Okay, take a break. Thank you. And we're back online. We're at item J, Engineering and Public Works, with Councillor Leahy in the chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So we have several items on the agenda today. The first one is a report regarding the streetlight maintenance, repairs, and locates contract award. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Crone, thank you. So General Manager Molinari, would you like to speak to this first report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, this is a standard award report which modernizes the delivery of this essential service, and it also integrates the work within our work order system. The tender also establishes an updated rate structure to normalize costs and to improve service delivery. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, General Manager Molinari. Are there any questions from members of council? Seeing none, I will ask for a vote to, Councillor Roy Clemente, you have a question, yes?
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to confirm that this is a different contractor than we've had in the past. I know that in the past we've had some challenges with response times, and so I just wanted to make sure that there were standards for performance in this contract.
Through you, Madam Chair, it is actually the same contractor, but to your question, there are performance requirements, and this contract actually establishes a lot of the service levels and the time requirements, unit rates, etc. So we did sit down with the contractor to discuss these items, and we're confident that the service delivery through this enhanced model that actually integrates with our work order system will deliver the service level to the standard that we require.
And through you, Madam Chair, should there not be, should they not miss their performance standards? Are there mechanisms for us to recoup costs or something of the sort?
Through you, Madam Chair. So with any contract, our ability to deal with that is to terminate the contract. So if performance is poor, we have that option. But we are confident that with the new contract and the provisions that are in there, that we have the basis to be able for this to be a very successful contract.
And for the term, if I may, Madam Chair, the term of 4 years, is that not only just to give us some certainty, but also to give them some certainty as well?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's good for us just in terms of having administratively to go through this every year and have a new contractor come on board is administratively very difficult and time consuming. So if we end up with good service from a good service provider, having a nice longer term contract is good, and you know, at the end of 4 years, they have the opportunity to adjust their rates through another competitive process, and it basically just provides us with a good, efficient overall process.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of committee? Seeing none, this was moved by Councillor Crone, so all those in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 2, we have a LED streetlight conversion strategy update. And so can I have a mover for this, please? Mayor Haxon, thank you. General Manager Molinari, can you comment on the strategy update, please? Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. So our streetlight conversion strategy is evolving, and with the current program to complete the photometric design town-wide. So we're in good shape to be shovel-ready for grant opportunities and to implement the project as portions of the network reach into their life of service and as budget permits through future budget cycles. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions with regard to the strategy update? Seeing none, Mayor Haxon moved this, so all those in favor? Very good, and that passes. And item number 3, Engineering and Public Works Memo Review on Anti-Whistling Measures and Update. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Foster, thank you very much. General Manager Molinari, please update us on this anti-whistling measures.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, so staff discussed the measures noted as alternatives for whistling with CN and Metrolinx, and both advised that the measures are deviation from Transport Canada's guidelines and are thus not viable as alternatives to whistling. So whistling remains the default safety measure, which provides the highest degree of prevention and community safety. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from members of committee? Yes, Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Molinari. It's my understanding in Markham, they had done away with the train whistling, and so they went to the expense of putting in all the crossing arms and all the extra safety measures, but that there was still an accident. It happened within the last few months, I believe, and it's my understanding, if maybe you could confirm this, that because of the accident, it now reverts back to the whistling. So have I got that right?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's yeah, mostly correct. That was a multi-million-dollar project in order to put in the anti-whistling measures. They had a close call. It was there. I don't believe there was an incident, but it was a close call. And when that happens, you revert back to the whistling, which is deemed to be the default safe way of addressing those concerns. So even with those measures, and I believe they were in the approximately $7 million for that location, it still ended up going back to the original default. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from members of committee? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wonder, Mr. Molinari, has staff reached out to the deputant, Mr. Sprigg, who brought some of this to light the last time?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we did. We reached out to him to advise him that this was coming to council today, and we offered to have a conversation with him with respect to the report.
Thank you very much for doing that. We appreciate that follow-up, and I'm sure the residents do as well, although it might not be the outcome that they wanted. I think that residents overall are in agreement that safety always comes first, and that things shall remain as they are, rather than making any potentially costly changes that could backfire in the future. So thank you very much for that. So we'll take the vote on this. It was Councillor Foster who moved this motion, and all those in favor? Thank you very much, and that passes. I have one question for our general manager because it appeared this morning that the workers are working on Highway 48 on the stretch between Princess and Foodland to create a sidewalk. And my understanding is that this has been the project has been in progress for over 7 years in the making, and involving the MTO and the province and so it'll be a great relief to residents to know that this is being constructed. So I'm wondering if you could just give us since the workers appeared this morning, can you give us an update on how long the project is anticipated to take, although it's the Ministry of Transportation that supervises it, and also in conjunction with that project of the sidewalk, there was also a request last year to reduce the speed to 60 kilometers an hour from the current 80, and so I'm wondering where the process is at to reduce that speed limit in that area.
Through you, Madam Chair. So happy to, well, two things we're happy about. We're happy to get this project moving. It has been a long time coming. We're very excited to kind of get this one constructed and completed. So with regards to the timing for the project, we anticipate a few months to complete it, certainly by the end of the year. I don't have the exact timing in front of me, but you know, the sidewalk project, it won't be it'll just be a few months to get that completed. With regards to the speed limit reduction, happy to report that the MTO has agreed to, well, they did an analysis and found that the 60-kilometer speed limit would be appropriate, and they will be, they're in the process of putting the changing their bylaws and doing the administrative back-end work to make that happen. So we'll be seeing that happen over the next few months as well.
Thank you very much, General Manager Molinari. That's great news for everybody. So in hindsight, I'd like to ask for a mover of that verbal update that we've received from General Manager Molinari. Can I have a mover for that update? Thank you very much, Councillor Crone. And can we... and our General Manager has one more item that he'd like to discuss. Thank you very much, General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to advise Council and the public that there's going to be a temporary overnight road closure on Harold Road this Friday, May 23rd, from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's necessary to facilitate a culvert replacement, and we've been working with communications. We'll be sending communications out to area residents and emergency services. So that's just for Council's awareness.
Thank you very much for that verbal update. So we'll add that on to the one that we just received from General Manager Molinari, which Councillor Crone moved. So can we vote now in terms of accepting the verbal update from General Manager Molinari? Thank you very much, and that passes. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the Engineering and Public Works section, and I will pass the chair back to Madam Mayor.
We are on item K at this time, and that's Fire Emergency Services. Councillor Foster in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And like Councillor Roy D. Clemente a little earlier, I believe I have everybody pinned so I can have a good look on my screen here. So bear with me if something goes a little sideways. We have 3 items on the agenda today. The first one is a Fire and Emergency Services report regarding the review and update and approval of the Emergency Management Program. Kind of falls on the heels of our workshop, I think, of a week ago. Can I have a mover for this report? Councillor Johns. And Chief Mainprize, can you lead us through this?
Thank you, Chair Foster, for the opportunity to introduce our new municipal emergency plan and subsequent bylaw to approve the program. The plan includes several updates to better align with industry best practice, closer alignment with our regional N6 partners in the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Our Municipal Emergency Control Group will use this plan as a foundational document to guide our team in the event of a community emergency and the development of any specialized operational plans to reduce community risk, mitigate the impact of any emergency events, respond to our community needs, and support any recovery efforts required to return to normal operations. And I'm happy to take any questions related to the plan.
Thanks, Chief. And I guess an easy way to kind of describe this is a living document that you can move in and change when required. Any questions from members of committee? Oh, an easy one. Seeing none, then I will move ahead with the mover from Councillor Johns. And we'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Very good. Okay. Madam Mayor, we'll move on to the second piece today. It's in a Fire and Emergency Services memo regarding the annual report. Just before we get started, I'm glad to see the annual report come back. In my years in emergency services, I spent a lot of time working on annual reports, and you know, this report can be very lengthy. It can be very short. The one that we're looking at today is kind of in the middle, so it covers everything that we need to do. So can I have a mover for this? Councillor Leahy. And Chief Mainprize, can you provide any comments?
Yeah, thank you again, Chair Foster, for the opportunity to introduce our 2024 annual report. The report's an overview of the tremendous work of our team at EGFES. It provides an overview of our organization, our community risk, operational performance, and some strategic goals for 2025. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to our EGF admin team, specifically Deputy Davidson and Sarah Galvin, who compiled all the data, created the initial design, Nicola Alston from IT, who created all the maps, and our comms team, who assists with the layout and the graphics. And just before I take any questions, I also want to just directly thank the mayor who attended our training session last week at the Fire Service Training Institute in Toronto to participate and observe some fire operations with a number of our new recruits. So thank you, Mayor Haxton, for attending, and I'm happy to take any questions related to the report.
Very good. Do we have any questions from members of committee? Councillor Leahy.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. It's not so much a question as it is congratulations. 2024 and the annual report reflects a tremendous amount of work that has been focused on the Fire and Emergency Services Department, and you're joining the staff here with us. So I want to recognize that, and I think it's a great news story reading the annual report. And I'd also just like to highlight, because you're not necessarily tooting your own horn, but on the very last page of it, there's a staff recognition page, which talks about retirements. Some members of the firefighting department have been with the department for 43 years, 35 years, 20 years, and beyond, and as well as listing the new hires. So I think it's a great report, and if I was just going to invite you to say if you had anything to say about the staff highlights this year.
Great. Through the chair to the councillor's question. So thank you for the opportunity to highlight some of our staff. As detailed on the last page of the report, many of our staff have been with the town and EGFES Fire for an extremely long time. They provide incredible contributions to the community. Many of them have done so as a paid-on-call firefighter way back before it was even EGFES, when it was 3 different organizations that came blended together several years ago. So they provide significant contributions to the community. You know, we can't thank them enough for the amount of times they've left their families on Saturdays and Sundays, and snowstorms and darkness to attend to the emergencies within our community and provide that service to their communities for little or no monetary repercussions for that. So wonderful people who've contributed a ton. We owe them a ton of thanks, and we're looking forward to recognizing them at our service event on June 17th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Johns, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Foster. I just 2 comments. One, when I read the report in preparation for today, I noticed on I guess page 14, it would be, just for my colleagues as I'm referencing it, the emergency incidents is 2020 to 2024, and it references the number of incidences, and it goes by year. And if you look from 2020 to where we are now, the number actually is a 33% increase in incidences. And I want to commend council and the mayor for the recognition of the opportunity to improve through the investments that we've made in the previous budgets, not just from a staffing perspective, but I think that the next point is that on the 90% of the time, the 14 minutes, the opportunity to be able to take Holland Landing, to be able to expand the services coming from Holland Landing with our capital improvements and the recruits. Chief, I'm wondering if you could kind of speak to that 14-minute time. I think that in the spirit of continuous improvement, I'm wondering what you feel that this council's investments in Holland Landing from a capital improvements perspective, and the increase of full-time suppression staff would have on that number. Because when I looked at the more detailed information, it seems that a lot of these numbers are coming out of that Holland Landing area.
Through the chair to Councillor Johns, thank you for the question. So again, I'll start by actually thanking council for the operational and capital investments made in the 2025 budget, and I do believe that you'll see a significant impact specifically in that area with respect to a reduction in response times. our new recruits just started this week. So you'll see we'll be increasing the staffing levels from an 8 to 8 perspective within the Holland Landing area. And based on some of the preliminary data that we've been pulling to this, so from late last year to this point this year, we've had the opportunity, based on some staffing levels, to increase that level of service. We're seeing about a 6 to 7 minute response reduction, specifically in the Holland Landing and what I would call the West Sharon Holland Landing, and certainly the South Holland Landing and Green Lane corridor, by improving the service levels in that area. So significant improvement. We're happy to be able to provide an improved customer service. And we'll be later in the year, I think we're going to be able to provide some additional information once we establish some more data to solidify the early results.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anything further from members of committee? Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, through you to our chief, there's, on page 9, you talk about the 1,412 emergency incident responses, which is in itself is a staggering number that your team is responding to. But we look at these numbers and we see them on a page, and but I want to share, a personal story. A neighbor of mine had a heart attack in his house, and your team was the first to respond, and you saved his life. And that's such a tangible, result of the things that we do here in this town. He saved, and every time I talk to him, every time I see him, he talks about it and how much he appreciates everything that you folks did for him. So publicly, I want to thank you for that. It was, I'd be shopping around for a new neighbor now if it wasn't for you guys. So he's a good guy. We'd hate to lose him. So I'm glad you were there to respond. But that is a tangible benefit, beyond the numbers that we see on the screen here in the report. That's something. So I appreciate all the fine work that you folks do.
Thank you, Councillor Crone. Any other members of committee? Seeing none, I will call the vote to receive the annual report. All in favor? And that is carried. All right, the third item is a Fire and Emergency Services memo to do with the signage update for the flashing green lights that our paid-on-call firefighters have the opportunity to have. Can I have a mover for this? Councillor Carruthers. And Chief, can you update us with any comments on this one?
Yeah, thank you again, Chair Foster. The memo is in response to a request from Council to report back on the status of the flashing green light signage program used throughout the town. The memo outlines the work that was completed to locate, map, and update the signage within the town to ensure our signs are maintained in good order now and for the future. Additionally, the memo outlines the communications plan to inform our residents and visitors of the purpose of the flashing green lights, and I'm happy to take any questions related to the memo.
Thank you, Chief. I see Councillor Johns. Go ahead.
Thanks, Councillor Foster. I obviously fully supportive as I've continued to bring this item forward when at all possible. When I was reading the memo under the tactics, speaking about the media release website, page, social media, e-newsletter, town talk messaging, homepage scrolling banner, digital screens. So the last item was the road signs, and that was the one that that I was attempting to champion based on the condition of the existing road signs that are there. And I see in brackets on the memo it says optional. And so I'm happy to receive the report, but I just wanted to stress again the opportunity to connect because I will say with the other authorities, because I'm recognizing that some of the road signs are sitting on provincial highways. And so I recognize it says optional. I'm happy to receive. I just wanted to flag the importance of the road signs themselves, because as people are driving, it's important for them to recognize that if there's a green light behind them to get the heck out of the way. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Could you, or do you need to respond to that?
So,
All right, well,
Sorry, through the chair to Councillor John. So we agree. We see the value of the signs. We understand the role that they play in educating the community. And it's our intent to maintain the signs on a go-forward basis. We had to do a bit of a hide-and-seek game to find them all. Once we used our staff as a reconnaissance to locate them all, but what we did was, again, utilizing our GIS team here in the town, as we mapped them all for future resources. We now know where they are, and we'll be able to include them in some regular maintenance to ensure they're kept in good order for the future.
thank you, Chief. Councillor Leahy.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. So I'd be happy to amend it that we remove the word optional, and I can confirm that on my latest driving past the population sign on Highway 48, that the green light signage looked new to me. So I believe that one has been replaced. It was much more noticeable and the colors were vibrant. So that leads to another question. I hope that the population sign will eventually be updated, but I'm glad to see that happening. So with regard to the communication program that you're going to put out, education is always the keystone to effective communication. And so with people moving to East Gwillimbury between 2016 and 2021, as well as ongoing people moving into our communities, not just from places like Toronto, which the fire chief can correct me, I'm not sure if they use any kind of a green light system in neighboring municipalities or in Toronto, but for people who are living in East Gwillimbury in the immediate vicinity, they may come from backgrounds of living in other parts of Ontario or from other countries, in fact, and they may just simply have no knowledge whatsoever of what a car with green lights flashing in it means. So I think this is a much needed improvement and a great step. But could you just tell us a little bit more about that communication piece that you are going to implement? There's going to be social media, but what other sorts of communications will you be doing? Thank you.
Through Chair Foster, thank you for the question. Just before I turn it back over to Bethany to expand a little bit more on our communication, I received a quick Teams message. The mobile optional, those were actually the portable signs. Those weren't the removal of the street signs. It was the portable ones that you, like the Curbex, I think this would probably be the generic term, that we could move throughout some different locations in the community, potentially maybe around community events where we have large gatherings and things like that, where we could provide some additional messaging in strategic locations. But I will turn the mic over to Bethany with respect to the communications plan and some of the things they have planned to educate our community and visitors.
Thank you, and through the chair, and thank you, Chief. I think you explained it quite well, and I'm glad that we have an opportunity to clarify for council members and for the public. We will use those road signs. We know that they're quite popular, and this is in addition to the permanent signs that the staff will undertake or have undertaken. And of course, you saw our tactical plan there, and we'll work on this, and I think this is kind of a year-round and ongoing educational opportunity for us, so it won't be one and done. You should see that rolling out in the next month or so, and then on an ongoing basis. I hope that helps clarify.
Thank you. I floated an idea quite some time ago about maybe putting some messaging on some of our own town vehicles. Some green light messaging would certainly go a long way. I'll move ahead to Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. The chief already answered the comment I was going to make, that the report states that the new signs have been installed and that the road signs were the Curbex signs because it's part of the communication strategy. So I was just going to point that out, but he already did. Thank you.
Perfect. Councillor Crone?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I'm so delighted to see this happening. I think I started pushing for this about 3 chiefs ago. So I'm so happy to see it. I remember talking to one of our firefighters who was telling me about just how bad it was. And it's been so long, he's since retired. But it's so bad that the average, the public don't understand what the significance of the green light is. And, to speak to my earlier point about the the fellow that, you know, your team was able to save. You know, if people weren't getting out of the road, that could mean the difference between life and death. So that's how critically important this light is, so the green light. So I'm happy to support any communication. I'll share it on my social media, do whatever it takes. This is an important policy issue for us, and so I'm delighted. Thank you so much for making it happen. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Crone, and this may bring a smile to the chief's face. I can add to what you're saying. It's very, very hard to educate the public on any of this kind of stuff, green lights and red lights. I've had many times in a fire truck where you're driving down the street with no lights on and people get out of your way. And the next day you're fully lit up, making all kinds of noise, and they look at you like you're out of your mind. So it's all a public education piece, and it's very, very hard to get that done. Seeing nothing further, I'll call the vote to receive this memo. All in favor? And that is carried. Is there anything further, Chief?
Through Chair Foster, there's nothing further for tonight. Thank you.
Perfect. With that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're under administration. With none at this time. Item M is Finance, and Councillor Johns, you're the chair.
Pass the gavel back to you.
Thank you. I'm now at Parks, Recreation and Culture with Councillor Crone in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing to add. Mr. Carmazin, you have nothing to add as well? We're good. Thank you.
Thank you. We're at item O, and that's Legal and Legislative Services with myself in the chair, and no reports at this time. I'll move to item P, which is Other Business, and that's upcoming council workshop on June 17th, 2025.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the June 17 date is currently being held as a hold in everybody's calendar, potentially for a workshop. Following consultation with staff and our leadership team through our regular agenda review process, staff have identified several presentation style and information items that would be best suited for that date. Considering the range of items, we're now recommending for the committee to consider perhaps relabeling the date to a committee of the whole rather than a workshop under the special council meeting format. And for clarity, this is not to add any additional meeting, but is just a simple relabeling activity, and it's going to allow us to bring forward a broader scope of items for your consideration. In order to facilitate this, we would require your confirmation that you're okay with this approach, and if so, a motion to accommodate this and a ratification today would be very helpful so that we can update all of your calendars with just a new title. So, Madam Mayor, that's just a little bit of a background on that. I just wanted to see if committee would be willing to change that to a committee of the whole structure.
Your thoughts?
Councillor Lee has a question.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. I think that any opportunity to learn and to discuss with council important topics that have been suggested by staff, by our expert staff, should be an opportunity that's keenly taken advantage of. So I'd be happy to put forward a motion that we accept changing it into a committee of the whole meeting, and that we also ratify that later today.
Councillor Johns, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just through to you, to the clerk, if I can just get an understanding. So they are education workshop topics, and there's multiples that are looking to be addressed. And is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps I can ask our CIO to provide some further clarity, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, the management team has been looking at the meeting cycle through June. There's a number of items that are informational and will be presentation style items that could go onto a CWC, could consume a workshop, but we just believe that simply changing the format to the CWC will allow us to take care of a fair number of items of business that we just think are more suited to a committee rather than a council format. But they will be informational in nature, and there'll be presentations, but there'll be a series of them. I think there's 5 or 6 of them that we'd like to bundle into that session for you. So it's just simply a different format for the day.
Any questions, comments? I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And I have item Q as my last item. Be it resolved that the meeting of the Committee of the Whole Council adjourn at 5:20 p.m. Could I have a mover, Councillor Crone? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We accomplished a great deal today. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it.